Here's what we're talking about today on Daily Blast Live.
Disney's live action The Little Mermaid makes a big splash at the box office. Is the plot of the movie problematic, though, for today's times? Then, a couple who took in a Ukrainian orphan finds themselves in the middle of a nightmare. Was she actually a 22-year-old con artist at the time of her adoption?
There was a moment when I woke up in the middle of the night and Natalia was standing over my bed with a knife in her hand.
Plus, actress and singer Vanessa Williams tells us all about judging Queen of the Universe while weighing in on our country's drag debate.
We've got some issues right now, letting our drag be an art form.
And Jules' rendition of the national anthem gets mixed reviews. Is changing the melody disrespectful?
Oh my gosh.
Get real.
No.
Y'all, just stop.
This is a sham.
It's finally here. Drum roll.
Welcome to DBL. We are all coming back from a long Memorial Day weekend. Before we talk about our day off and all the fun we had, we do want to just say, you know, we are so grateful to all the brave men and women who lost their lives dedicated to our freedom and our country. So thank you on behalf of all of us. Okay, so let's talk about what did you do this weekend? Were you here? Were you home?
I was with the fam. I sent you guys a couple pictures. My favorite nephew, Josh, got married this weekend.
Josh.
It's crazy because I remember getting the phone call on a landline phone that he was born, and now he's married to the person that he loves. That's me and the kiddos, and that's at the top. That's a picture of my mom with her 3 kids. That's the first picture she's ever had with all 3 of her kids. So it was really a full circle moment for our family, for myself. I told you this is a changing month. I saw my mom get married 3 weeks ago, and my nephew get married this weekend. So I'm good. I'm playing with house money now. Maybe we got a couple, maybe college graduations and weddings to knock out with the kids, but other than that, I'm good.
That's perspective right
That's
there.
unbelievable.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Congratulations, Al.
Tori, what about you?
I did a little hike with my senior dogs, and I'm a little lazy, so it was a little walk to Netherland, one of our favorite mining towns.
I like that. I like it out there.
Oh,
yeah.
Josie Rose.
Yeah, and we enjoy it. If you have senior dogs and you live in Colorado, it's a great place to walk. That's a fishing pond for children, Jeff.
Oh.
And you can throw it back, but it's just for kids.
I've been up there before.
Oh,
it's beautiful.
really nice. So we enjoy. I did have a glass. It was lovely. We can move past that.
It's like an aquarium.
Okay, and then ice cream. We can also move past the ice cream.
Ooh, and fire, girl.
And then I went to the pool, and it was lovely. I also invited myself and crashed to Erica's house, so I was also at Erica's house for part of it.
I'm so jealous. You got in on the spool.
Yeah, it was great.
So jealous.
So good.
Okay, speaking of pools, we went to the pool too all weekend. Our pool just opened, I think, like yours, Jeff, on Friday.
Yes.
We were talking about it. So, Sophie had her first swim meet too.
Oh,
yes.
Taking after mom.
Did we have that
was a trip.
video that you sent us on the group thread? Please tell me.
The tooth?
Yes.
Okay, so listen, before people say anything, my dad used to remove my teeth when they were wiggly with a string and a door. And it never hurt. So Sophie's tooth was wiggly, and I said, do you want it out so the tooth fairy can come visit? She said yes, and she was focused on getting that tooth fairy to come visit.
Of course.
So we tied, here's the video, tied the tooth, slammed the door,
Oh my
out
God.
it came.
Oh my God.
Yep, and it worked, man, it works. Boom, there it went.
Oh my God.
But of course, I made sure she wanted to do it.
Yeah, of course.
I like that you have to explain now.
It's true.
You know what I mean? It's so annoying.
It is.
It's so annoying.
I don't need people writing me saying that it's child abuse.
Yes. Oh,
That's what people say?
No, but I know she's right.
She's right.
Because I prefaced it when first of all, I shared that video only with friends because I don't need comments from people who might question my judgment as a parent, not knowing the full context in the situation.
I showed my wife
comment.
that was amazing.
That was awesome.
I said that girl's got heart. She's a tough one.
She's a fighter.
Yeah.
She is a fighter. We also saw The Little Mermaid.
Oh.
So that was fun. All the mom friends, look at them. They all got dressed up. One of them, Cora, is in a tail.
Wow.
And then look at them.
Is that the movie theater or the Enterprise?
No, that's the aquarium, Al.
Did you see those seats?
It was very very nice.
It was like really nice.
Yeah, that's what movie theaters look like.
Not all of them.
Yeah, they do now.
No, they don't.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
So speaking of the Little Mermaid, you guys, speaking of the Little Mermaid, so one thing that many Americans did this weekend, maybe some of our viewers here, they went and saw, just like us, Disney's live-action remake of The Little Mermaid. The film won the box office, taking in $121 million in its opening weekend alone. But reviews of the film are mixed, with some critics slamming it for lacking creativity and fun. Meantime, some people are calling out the film for its message to young girls, including British singer Paloma Faith. She posted this to Instagram saying, quote, "I don't want my kids to think it's okay to give up your entire voice and your powers to love a man. Not what I want to be teaching the next generation of women at all." So what do we think of the plot of The Little Mermaid? Do you think it's problematic? What would you say, Erica?
I would say that we knew what this movie was. I mean, it wasn't like a new script. And although there were changes, clearly, in order to make it less problematic or more today's standards, it's also an animated live-action film. But you actually saw it. So what were your thoughts?
I feel like I saw a different movie than her. Because,
What were your thoughts?
Can I give away some things? Can I say spoiler alert?
I feel like it's been 20, 30 years.
We know.
No, there's changes,
Okay.
Erica. So Ariel is the one that, we all know that she saved Eric in the beginning. She also saves him in the end. She's the one that defeats Ursula. Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah, not Eric like in the original.
Oh.
And she also saves her dad, King Triton. So for me, not only did she, and before she even saw Eric up on that boat, if you remember, not only in the original, but it's more introduced here, she always had an infatuation with humans. Eric was like, you know, the straw that broke the camel's back, where she's like, I need to do this. She made up her decision. This is what she wanted to do. So I saw that as being brave, going against her father, who's the king, saying, this is what I want. And there's one line at the very end that got me, which is a new line where after she saved her dad, who was literally dying after Ursula, again, spoiler alert, hit him with the Triton. He looked at her, and she had already gotten her voice back, which she got back, by the way, because she's the one that defeated Ursula. She got her own voice back. But she looked at her father, and he turned her fin back into legs. And she had agency over her own body, and she looked at her dad, and she said, thank you for hearing me. He goes, you shouldn't have had to have lost your voice in order for me to hear you. Now, if that's not a feminist, beautiful undertone, I don't know what is. I think Halle Bailey did an amazing job, and she knocked it out of the park. Anyways.
Can I ask you one question very quickly about it? That sounds fantastic, and I can't wait to go. I did play Scuttle in a performance.
You did? Scuttle's amazing.
Jingle Hopper.
I will pay $10,000 for that video.
Excellent. I will get it to you. I will get it to you.
Yes.
Quick question. You know how the animation is fun and colorful? Is the live actions too natural? I don't want you know what I mean? I don't want it too under the sea. I still want it to be like under the sea.
It's beautiful.
Okay.
The colors are beautiful.
Good.
And I'm a huge original Little Mermaid fan. This one surpasses it.
Oh, wow.
Surpasses the expectations. It's much more strong. Even before you kiss the girl, there's this line in there about it being like Ariel's choice. Like, in my opinion, it wasn't too woke. It empowered young girls to like have agency over their bodies, to be heroes. Sophie looked at me and said, Mom, she's a hero, when she saved her own father.
Oh, my word.
And there's another part in it, because you mentioned Scuttle. Sorry, this is just, it was amazing.
I'm amazed by this.
So Scuttle's played by Awkwafina, and it was so cool because Lin-Manuel Miranda is the one that did the soundtrack, just like in Encanto. There's a song I predict is going to be all over, just like We Don't Talk About Bruno. This one is called Scuttlebutt. And I guess a scuttlebutt is a gossip back in the ship days. So there's a whole song called I'm a scuttlebutt, scuttlebutt. And one of my friends who likes to like stay with the Joneses in the neighborhood turned to me and goes, oh no, am I the scuttlebutt?
She's all, yeah.
Okay, clearly I like the movie. Sorry. Anybody want to add anything
I
to
think
this?
we're done.
Yeah. After your
I liked it.
term paper of The Little Mermaid.
That was good.
Wait, there is another.
I think it's time for a
Mermaid.
commercial.
No, there's another controversy, Jeff. There always is.
I know about
Over
this.
the makeup artist who was responsible for Melissa McCarthy's transformation, who knocked it out of the park also to become Ursula. Now, the original Ursula's villainous look was based on a drag queen icon named Divine, but people took issue with the fact that the makeup artist who did the look is not queer, nor had he done drag makeup before. The makeup artist is responding, Peter Smith King, saying, quote, why can't I do as good as a job as a queer makeup artist. So what do we think of this? What do you think, Tori?
Okay, first of all, he can. Absolutely. That's fine with me. But I will have to say, the makeup in the animation is so much more interesting than what I thought Ursula's makeup was. Now, I want to talk to Dre, of course, our makeup artist, and we'll go to the break and talk to him about it. The green, the weird eyebrows just seem flat and boring. If you watch the Ursula animated, it's got sparkles. It's blue. It's like aqua. It's like underwater. And I wish they had played with some of that. Vanessa Williams has, for instance, has a great sparkle line at Sephora, and incorporated some of Divine into that because she's well known to have been based on Divine, and Divine's Divine.
Yeah, very divine. Yeah, but Melissa McCarthy did great, Tori. You'd be very proud of her.
Oh,
Unbelievable. Michael Dean said that was his favorite character.
Really?
Okay, enough about The Little Mermaid. Coming up on DBL, our interview with actress and singer Vanessa Williams. She's telling us all about being a judge on the drag competition Queen of the Universe, and Jules' rendition of the national anthem gets mixed reviews. Is changing the melody disrespectful?
Our viewers are talking about DBL.
Yes!
I like that.
Leaves me speechless and like blushing.
Thank you, thank you.
That's emotional.
Do I want to sit there and watch them? Yes, I do. So we're trying to get Dre. Dre's also worked in drag and is a fantastic creative director and makeup artist. So I wanted to get his take on Ursula.
Oh, go for it.
Are you listening to water? What's going on?
My wife sent me a video of the kids.
I was like, is he under the sea? So is okay, good. Is kiss the girl? Because in the movie, it's very much like don't have consent, just kiss the girl. How did they? No, but it's very much like don't worry about it, just go for it.
Yeah. So the way they did it differently, is they rephrased leading up to it. You have to kiss Prince Eric. So you like almost like she would, you could tell that that's all she wanted. So she has, but they don't change the lyrics in the song. When the song comes, it's the original song, but it's already been built up. And then there's a point too where Sebastian points out that when they even bring up the kiss, she kind of goes into a spell of a fog. So they kind of, I think, have that layer on top too, where she's not even aware. But then they never kiss anyways because
They don't
right,
kiss?
right. They fall. That's the whole point. Oh, kiss though. Oh. Remember, they go to.
They want you to talk about Ursula.
I wanted to give you the opportunity because I thought it was a little boring. Not that he had to be queer, but I thought the makeup was boring and should have been more like Divine.
Oh no, it was flat and terrible.
That's what I said.
No, you could see the glue on the brows. They tried to glue back her brows.
And the green
that was
was
horrible
boring.
back. There was no symmetry in her actual complexion. Her brows were like this. There wasn't a roundness to the brows, unfortunately, which is like the whole Divine character. What's being said a lot in the film world right now is that Melissa McCarthy actually had the directive to control the narrative of how that was being portrayed. But the bottom line is she looked like Auntie's 80s Ursula and not
great.
like 2023 Ursula.
I totally, and with all that makeup, I said to Vanessa Williams, you could have
Absolutely.
done really cool.
Welcome back. The Indianapolis 500 was this weekend, and Jules sang the national anthem, but she had her own take on the Star-Spangled Banner that left a lot of folks upset. Let's watch together, and you can decide what you think. Take a look.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
So a lot of people online were quick to criticize. One person wrote, for the love of God, just sing the national anthem as it's meant to be sung. Don't put your own spin on it, sacrilegious. And another person said, Jewel butchered the national anthem. People were trying to sing along but couldn't because of the way she sang it. What do you think, Jeff?
I think I had fun this weekend. I was with my family and I drank and was at the pool. I never once went to a movie and said, you took away a little girl's freedom for the Little Mermaid. I never listened to the national anthem and got online and told everybody my opinions about it. It's insane where we're at. I thought that was beautiful, by the way.
Me too.
I don't think
I
it's
thought it was great.
sacrilegious. I don't think it's disrespectful to the national anthem. And I usually stick up for things like that. It's Jules' take as an artist to put her own spin on what she thinks the national anthem should sound like. And I like a little bit of twist. I don't like the same old thing. I thought that was beautiful.
Absolutely.
I didn't see what the problem was, and I know people were upset because they couldn't sing along, but nobody was asking them to sing. They asked Jewel to sing, and Jewel sang, and I thought it was beautiful. And it wasn't like a creation where it's so far removed from the original that you're like stuck on the performance. She was hitting all the notes.
She sounded
It was very
hauntingly beautiful.
melodic. I want to listen to the whole thing.
Yeah, imagine you're Francis Scott Key, who wrote it. It's the dawn's early light. It's cold. You have bombs bursting in air, and you see the wave of the American flag, and you write a poem. Oh, 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 say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail, right? She sung it like it was in the morning, like a poem, like it was just starting, and it's probably the way he wrote it.
I think we want you to do the national anthem. Just like
But it's a beautiful,
say, can you see?
It was never like, oh, say, can you see? It was always a quiet poem that was so beautifully worded that it became the national anthem.
Honestly, if we're joking around, but you just gave your own take on the national anthem, and if somebody hired Tori to do the national anthem, that's how you would do it. You would talk us through it,
She'd be a beat
and you would explain
Or Sam to break down the Little Mermaid.
You paint a picture, there's passion behind what you're saying, and you know, my girl works for the Rockies, so I hear a lot of national anthems, I hear a lot of America the Beautiful.
Are there a bunch of different renditions?
Sometimes it's just a dude playing the sax.
Yeah.
Or an organ, like it was on Saturday.
Jimi Hendrix. Remember the famous electric guitar one?
He destroyed the country when he did that. It was one of the most popular renditions. So I think we need to understand that this is art, and let's not lose sight of the fact that this song is meant to mean something. We're not talking just about musical taste here at this point. So I think, again, like you said, Jeff, just some people need to, let's take a weekend, guys. It's been a rough couple of years. Let's just take a weekend. We'll start back on Tuesday.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well said. We're all in agreement. That's rare. I love it. Coming up on DBL, we're talking with the fabulous Vanessa Williams, all about judging the drag singing contest Queen of the Universe.
There is nothing I like better than finding a great deal on travel. And it turns out, I'm not alone. Verify viewer Catherine emailed us to ask, is there a certain day of the week that's cheapest to buy a plane ticket? So Catherine, let's verify. Our sources are Scott's Cheap Flights, a study by cheapair.com, and Brett Snyder, president of Cranky Concierge Travel Assistance and a former airline pricing analyst. Some studies suggest Tuesday or Saturdays are the cheapest days to buy tickets, but all of our sources say they usually rely on flawed or outdated data. For example, some articles suggest that weekends are the cheapest days to buy. Snyder points out that's based on data that tracks the average amount spent on a ticket each day of the week. Families tend to buy their tickets on weekends and usually purchase less expensive tickets. Meanwhile, business travelers tend to buy their tickets during the week, and many are less price sensitive.
A lot of the business travel, premium cabin or even last minute or whatever it might be, those tend to be higher fares.
The end result is a study that has skewed data. Similar articles suggest Tuesdays offer the best deals, but our sources say that's also not the case. Scott's Cheap Flights explains on its site that this idea is a holdover from the 1990s when airlines used to upload special e-fares on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. These days, Snyder says airlines use sophisticated algorithms to consistently adjust fares based on demand, regardless of what day of the week it is.
This hasn't existed for years. I couldn't tell you the last time when those actually were out there in the market.
So we can verify, no, there is not a certain day of the week that's cheapest to buy a plane ticket. So when should you book? Cheapair.com found domestic tickets are generally cheapest 3 to 15 weeks before departure. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Let the drag extravaganza begin!
UKRANIAN, the Queen of the Universe.
The world's first ever vocal drag competition is bigger than ever. It's an all-new season of Queen of the Universe.
Time to spice up the competition. Are you ready for your life to change?
Welcome back to DBL. That was a clip from season 2 of Queen of the Universe. And earlier we spoke with one of its judges, the multi-talented Vanessa Williams. Take a look. Oh my goodness, she is a Tony, Grammy, and Emmy nominated actress and singer. Please welcome to DBL, Vanessa Williams.
Yes. Wow.
Yes.
Vanessa, let's jump right in. You look beautiful. I have to point that out. I'm a little nervous. Let's talk about Queen of the Universe. Not you, the show. The costumes, makeup, and dancing are over the top. So what is the craziest thing to happen backstage so far?
So Queen of the Universe, this is season 2 on Paramount Plus, and it is a drag queen singing competition that is live. So there is no lip syncing. This is all live singing. The drag is out of this world. There are some costumes and some bodies and some faces that are incredible. And there's also some heartwarming moments. There's a couple of moments where you'll see family members get a chance to interact with the queens that are in competition. And it shows the humanity and the acceptance and the support that is behind the scenes for this spectacular moment. It's great to be a judge. I get a chance to sit back and watch all the festivities.
Yes, we live for fabulous queens, yourself included. Now, but this is a global show. But are other countries more accepting of drag than America? And where does our country rank in the world of acceptance when it comes to drag?
Good question.
Good question. There are some that are more severe, that especially we've heard on our when we did season 1, there was a queen from India, and she said, it is a danger in my country to do what I love to do. So that was a heartbreaking story. And then there's also ones that are celebrated. We've got one queen from Australia, and it is an art form that has been celebrated for years, and it is wonderful. So in terms of where we are as a country, yeah, we've got some issues right now. Letting our drag be an art form. It is an art form. It is not predatory. These are queens that have made a life and career out of transformation and bringing joy.
I love that you said that, because I was going to follow up and ask why America needs this type of show right now. And I think you absolutely said it all, because it's also about the safety of our performers and how much we, some of us, everyone on this panel, wants to protect that. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And it's showbiz. They're singing their hearts out. They're wearing amazing clothing, doing incredible choreography with dancers around them, and it's for production value. We're putting on a show so the whole family can enjoy it.
All right, well, let's stay on the track of showbiz. Now, we read that there's a limited series about your Miss America scandal that's possibly in the works. First of all, is that true? And what is the biggest misconception about your story?
Well, the idea is true. We are getting the team together. So there's, you know, I don't have a release date, but it is in motion. Probably the biggest misconception, I think, is that, you know, I was a musical theater major before I became famous. And what beauty queen labels tend to do is negate any kind of talent you have or intellect. So it took me longer to actually show who I was when people would accept me than normally if I had just graduated from university, went to graduate school, went to Broadway. There would have been none of the skepticism that I had to barrel through, which took a long, long time.
That is powerful.
I think you showed them.
I think so too. Yes.
Well done.
DBL Nation, season 2 of Queen of the Universe premieres June 2nd on Paramount Plus. Vanessa, thank you so much for chatting with us today. Congratulations on everything. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Sunshine on a cloudy day sure sounds nice, but might not feel so great. Let's verify. Are UV rays stronger on cloudy days? We checked with several sources and found out the answer depends on some specific cloud conditions. A dark day will, of course, block out some sunshine, but our research all concludes many of those skin-damaging rays can still filter through.
Around 80% of the sun rays can penetrate through the clouds.
And some clouds could be worse than none at all. We looked at several studies showing a phenomenon, sometimes called the broken cloud effect, can actually cause the sun's light to reflect and bounce around more intensely. The University of Washington cites research showing UV rays enhanced by 25% on a partly cloudy day compared to a sunny day. If it's a cloudy day on the water, even more reason to lather up. According to the National Council on Skin Cancer Prevention, light bouncing off water and sand can effectively double UV exposure. But the reason for your cloudy day sunburn might be less meteorological and more mental. As in, experts say people often aren't thinking of applying or reapplying sunscreen when they aren't feeling bright, direct rays. Windy days can also cool the skin, and the Skin Cancer Foundation warns can make you more likely to blow off sunscreen.
You're still getting sun exposure and sun damage.
With your Verify, I'm Abby Larico.
Pool season is right around the corner, and as parents are getting their kids ready to splash in the pool, we wanted to know, are brighter colored swimsuits easier to spot if your kid goes underwater? Let's verify.
Our source is a watercolor study from Alive Solutions and Allie Gaines with Charlotte Aquatics. According to Alive Solutions, bright and contrasting colors are easier to see underwater. This is important because if your kid goes underwater for a long period of time, you'll want to easily spot them. The Alive Solutions color test shows some examples. In this series of photos, fabric colors such as bright reds, pinks, blues, and greens show up better when compared to fabrics such as light blue, light gray, black, and white. As you can see, the colors white and light blue basically disappear when underwater. Gaines says drownings are so prevalent in children under the age of 4. She confirms kids should be wearing brightly colored swimsuits.
Neon colors are much better. They're easier to spot in the water.
Gaines says while picking out the perfect swimsuit color is important for parents, it's only a secondary measure for preventing accidents in pools.
If you're not actually watching the water, if you're not actually watching your kids, it's really not going to do very good.
Gaines also suggests putting your kids in swim lessons at an early age to help get them used to being around the water.
So swim lessons are always going to be your number one way to keep your kids safe around the water, best way to prevent drowning. Formal swim lessons actually reduce the risk of drowning by 88%.
So we can verify that yes, brighter colored swimsuits are easier to spot if your kid goes underwater. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
We love sharing your comments. In regard to Jewel and the national anthem, Keith says Jewel put passion into the feeling of the song. She's a talented musician who I respect and has every right to include her take. And Myra says it still had the basic melody. What's the problem? It was nice. Exactly.
Shout out Jewel.
If you're leaving us, you can watch the second half of the show online. Watch on YouTube, dailyblastlive.com, or our mobile app. But if you get the second half of the show where you are, here's what's ahead. A couple who took in an orphan from Ukraine find themselves in the middle of a nightmare. Was she actually a 22-year-old con artist at the time of her adoption? And Succession fans are talking about the series finale, which has us thinking, what are the best finales of all time?
Walk into your favorite store and you'll see a wall of choices to protect your skin from the sun. A Verify viewer texted us asking about the difference between spray-on and lotion sunscreens. So let's verify. Are spray-on sunscreens as effective as lotions? Our sources are Harvard Health and 2 board-certified dermatologists to explain it's all about how you apply sunscreen.
I think it's easier with the lotion to make sure that you're getting full coverage. With a spray, you may not be as careful. So that is a consideration with the spray.
Dr. Rajani Kanta also says despite the advertising, you can't simply spray and go.
I recommend that you spray and then you make sure that you rub it in so that you're not missing any of those, you're not missing any spots.
Harvard Health found when spraying, most people apply just a quarter of what they need. Researchers recommend spraying each area for up to 6 seconds.
You know that you have enough when your skin glistens. If it's not glistening, you gotta put more.
But Dr. Danilo Del Campo says that doesn't mean sprays, when used properly, are any less effective than lotions.
Between a lotion that has SPF 30 and a spray that's SPF 30, they are equivalent. However, the difference is how do we apply it and the method that we apply it.
So we can verify, yes, spray-on sunscreens are as effective as lotions. However, they may be more difficult to use correctly than lotions. The doctors also say parents may want to use lotions for their children because it's harder to spray a good coating when kids are squirming around. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
Oh my gosh.
Get real.
No. Y'all, just stop.
This is a sham.
It's finally here. Drum roll. Welcome to DBL. Okay, so let's get right into something that you will not believe. Of all the strange adoption stories out there, very few are as unbelievable as the case of Natalia Grace. Watch.
You may remember the unusual story of Natalia Grace, a Ukrainian orphan with severe dwarfism adopted by the Barnett family in Indiana, then allegedly abandoned years later.
Then out of nowhere, we got a phone call from an adoption agency in Florida. They had reached out to us and they said, hey, we've got the perfect child for you. Here's all we're gonna give you. Here's 2 pictures. Here's a Ukrainian language birth certificate. And here's 1 doctor visit from 2 years before. You have 24 hours to tell us whether or not you want to adopt her. We went and signed paperwork, and the next thing you know, Natalia was ours.
They began to suspect things were not what they seemed with Natalia.
Now we're very concerned and very worried. Is Natalia 6? Is she older? We would find knives under her bed. There was a moment when I woke up in the middle of the night and Natalia was standing over my bed with a knife in her hand. She began to attempt to harm my sons in a very serious manner.
I'm going to kill you, you're gonna die.
She was re-aged as a 22-year-old and given an apartment. She was then taken in by another family nearby a year later.
Prosecutors allege that in July of 2013, the Barnetts left their daughter in the Lafayette apartment, then moved to Canada.
For years, her story was scrutinized.
A 6 or 7-year-old child living in an apartment alone for a year? That's just not believable to me. Are you a 33-year-old scam artist?
No. But what if that is not the full story?
A woman who claims to be Natalia Barnett's biological birth mother has come forward to say that she is a child.
What if this adult, pretending to be a child, was actually a child the entire time? Will we ever learn the truth of what happened? Only time will tell.
Wow, joining us now to talk all about the curious case of Natalia Grace, please welcome to the show veteran legal expert Beth Karras.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So let's just go to the start. How did Natalia come into the Barnett family's lives?
She had been adopted by a family in New Hampshire about 2 years earlier in 2008 when she was supposedly 4 years old and unloaded. They didn't want her after about a year, it appears. They were trying to pass her off, almost sell her to another little family, little people family a couple of times. And when that was unsuccessful, they dropped her off at an adoption agency in Florida. Now, they were from New Hampshire. And that's when the Barnetts got the call that they had 24 hours to come and get this little girl, or else she was going to be turned over to foster care. And that was in 2010, so they thought they were adopting a 6-year-old.
So when did the Barnett family begin to suspect that maybe she was much older?
Almost immediately. There were signs almost immediately when Christine, the mother, gave her a bath. They were still in Florida, hadn't gotten back to Indiana yet. And she noticed that Natalia was very mature sexually. She had pubic hair. And they thought, oh, she's 6 years old, so what's going on here? Were they off by a few years or more than a few years in her age?
Now, the answer to Natalia's age is still, I can't believe this, still a mystery. In actuality, how old was Natalia while this was going on?
Well, we don't know for sure.
Right.
If you believe her Ukrainian birth certificate, she was actually 8 years old when she was re-aged to 22 and left on her own in an apartment that was not modified for someone with a disability.
Oh
She's
my
a little
gosh.
person. This
Oh
was
my
a tall counters and bathtub and sinks, and wasn't modified for her. But yet she was 8 years old. But 8-year-olds can live on their own.
Wow. All right, follow up to that. Do you feel like the stories of her plotting to kill the family, which we all know as the narrative, some people are saying that was made up. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there may be some truth to it, but you have to consider that it's really just coming from the Barnetts. Right? There's no corroboration of that. And perhaps they're making it worse than it was. But you have to consider also that Natalia may have been acting out. If she was a child, we don't know what those first years of her life were like. Was she sexually abused? She didn't know boundaries. Was she, I don't know, just kind of engaging in some sort of self-protection, some mechanism that was triggered because of her past.
Right, that's where my mind went. But I have to ask you this, because I know you've uncovered everything in this story. If the Barnetts were making this up, what do you believe? Do you believe that there was some sort of motive to distance themselves from her? What do you think that is?
Well, once their son Jacob got a full scholarship to Canada, I mean, they really did have a hard time with Natalia, whether it was their fault or hers or a combination. That is the truth. And they wanted to unload her. She was theirs legally, but I think they wanted to get to Canada and get Jacob educated, bring their sons with them. And they had her re-aged, and it was a way to just kind of get rid of her. So that could be one motive, because they claim they tried to use other resources. They tried to get psychological help for her and police. And I mean, they said, no, she's your problem, basically. So like, okay, we're going to get rid of our problem. We're going to do it legally.
I have to ask, does anybody know where she is now?
Yes, she's in Indiana. She was taken in by another family, and she is older, well-adjusted. She's either 19, turning 20 later this year, or 34, depending on what you believe. Wow. And she's doing quite well.
Wow, Beth, this case is absolutely crazy. Thank you for sharing your expert analysis. DBL Nation, the curious case of Natalia Grace continues tonight on ID. Thank you so much, Beth.
Thanks.
We appreciate you.
Thanks,
we'll be right back. Thank you.
Our viewers are talking about DBL. Yes!
I like that.
Leaves me speechless. I'm like blushing. Thank you, thank you.
That's emotional.
Do I want to sit there and watch them? Yes, I do.
Okay. Hey guys, there's a movie Orphan that came out like recently, am I right? That has like a very similar plot. That movie was based on this story, but the players in this story actually didn't even know about Orphan when we did, our producers did an interview. He had to tell them about that movie. So, oh, okay. It was based on a similar story, so we don't know. Yeah, similar story, so it's not connected in any way to that. Yeah, I guess it's not connected. I mean, I was saying it's not connected.
But it is a crazy, crazy story.
Yeah.
I remember that Dr. Phil clip because we were on, I don't know how many years ago, but we were doing this show at the time.
We had to react to that.
Yeah, we did it on the show, and I remember that. And now the follow-up, and it's still nobody knows the truth. Can you tell by someone's, like a dentist, to get their age or blood test? There's got to be something you could, because they do it with dead bodies that they exhume, and they're like, oh, this person was between the age of this, just on their, or maybe they do a lot of like bone structure, so maybe being a little person, the bone structure is not the same.
Okay, because I was like, they absolutely do bone length. Not only that is interesting, the teeth seem like the best bet.
Right.
You absolutely can see if a child's teeth hasn't come in yet, but I wonder if they can't get permission to look at her dental records. Perhaps there's some privacy. Well, that's her right. I mean, she has to have probable cause to be.
Oh, maybe she doesn't want
right.
them
You know what I'm
knowing?
saying? And if that case is,
well, if you were trying to prove that you're right, why wouldn't you prove?
Well, she pulled out the birth certificate, and the original mom came out to say, but I feel like that can also be faked.
Tori,
thank you.
Does anybody remember on Oprah when there was that controversy about that mom that sent her Russian orphan back to Russia? Do you guys remember that? You remember that?
Yeah, was she?
Yeah, she like sent her.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, she said the kid was violent.
Yeah.
And was she was lied to. They were on Oprah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome back to DBL. The hit show Succession came to an end on Sunday, and we finally learned the fate of the Roy children. Spoiler alert for anyone who has not seen the finale. Cover your ears. In a twist, Tom Logan, Roy's son-in-law, swooped in and became the American CEO of the family business, which ended up being sold. Many fans were pleased with the finale, even though none of Logan's 3 children came out on top. But that got us thinking about some other season finales that left fans divided. Some fans hated when Dexter wrapped things up by having the lead character retreat to a lumberyard in Oregon. The ending of The Sopranos is still debated after the audience finds Tony and his family sharing onion rings at a diner, and then the scene just cuts to black. But Game of Thrones might take the cake for the most polarizing series finale of all. What do we think is the worst and the best? Tori, do you have like one show that you felt like failed you?
Lost. I was in forums, I told them I was in clubs. We would discuss and we would evaluate, and we took it seriously, and they promised us. Damon Lindelof said, it's not that they're dead. They're not in purgatory, and what happened? They were dead. They were in purgatory. And it really was like, I invested all this stupid time. But the other one that I love, first of all, I have to give a shout out to MASH, because MASH had a wonderful ending that was a lot of people have already brought up. But Breaking Bad, I thought, had a really good ending, and it ended at the right time.
Yeah, I think Lost was a tough one too, because there were so many episodes of it.
Dude, I was like 7 seasons, 10, whatever.
It was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot of Lost.
Any shows you were disappointed with?
It wasn't like the end of the world. I wonder if anybody else feels like this. The Wire. In a lot of ways, it really helped explain like what like City Hall does, and like how the mayor is wrapped in with the police chief. And I didn't understand any of that, and it really illuminated like a lot of like what city issues are. But at the end, the last season, it was like based around the newspaper and a weird story, and especially coming off the heels of season 4, I think 2 and 4 were the best seasons. It was just it didn't hold up. It wasn't like it ruined the season for me, but it was just like you could have done it. I think wrap it up at 4. Last season's is better.
Erica, did you get disappointed by any specific series? Or Jeff? I know
well, I mean, we all wanted to know who shot JR, but I mean, other than that.
Yeah, bring it back.
Bring it right back.
That was a good one.
Oh, it's true. Of course. Big Mama and I were very, that was a big thing.
Okay.
It was
Big
huge.
Mama, that was your bonding time.
That was back when there was one TV in the house and you just watched what everybody watched, so I get it, yes.
You were watching like Young and the Restless with your grandma, right?
Me and my grandma, we watched Young and the Restless during the day. At night on Fridays, we watched Falcon Crest, Empty Nest, Amen,
I loved Empty Nest.
227.
Amen and
It was like, no one had this like, 89 channels. It was like, there's one TV, and I guess Gem and the Holograms.
You're welcome.
I'd be watching that because my sister's watching it, so I still know the theme song.
We still don't give enough credit to the Golden Girls for making it okay to sit down after 8 o'clock and eat cheesecake.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That changed my whole life. Having that cheesecake, watching television.
Yeah, I was disappointed in Game of Thrones that final season because I was such a big fan. Yeah. So the way that ended, hopefully they fill those shoes. Snow is coming out soon, so it's follows Johnson. Huh?
Did you say Snow's coming out soon?
Did I?
I thought so.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
I didn't hear that. I think
I'm surprised you didn't get mad at me about 1899.
Oh, that show sucked. I don't even know if I can say that, but it's horrible. And
you loved it the first 5 episodes.
After that, they had a child last 5 episodes.
You're right.
Okay.
I'm with Jeff there. I'm with Jeff.
Right.
Okay, more stars came out to support Taylor Swift's Eras Tour over the weekend. Molly Ringwald caught the show at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey on Sunday with Hamilton star Lin-Manuel Miranda. Paul Rudd was also there and waved to a very excited fan. And check out Aaron Rodgers getting into the groove with actors Miles Teller and Bradley Cooper. Aaron was also spotted at another show, dancing along to Shake It Off by himself. Who knew? Such big Taylor Swift fans. What's the
No, I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers, and it's like starting to answer a question I've had since I turned 40. Can you go to a concert or a club by yourself and just dance? Because I don't want to go to a club and like hit on people, but I want to go I used to go to hip hop concerts pre-COVID by myself. But then are you the weird guy that's like, oh, look at Al Jackson in the corner dancing by himself?
No.
I don't know. Is that weird? Because I mean, it's not a great look. It's not great, but is it okay?
It seems okay to me.
I'm not getting arousing. No, I think you're all right. Like we support
I think it's okay.
Would you ever do that, Erica?
Sure.
You go to a concert by yourself?
Yeah, I guess I could.
That's a no.
I mean, I've gone to concerts where I was like working, so I wasn't there.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's being
I get it.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Taylor Swift wasn't the only singer bringing out the stars. Beyonce rolled out the red carpet for some of her famous friends while making a stop in Paris for her Renaissance tour. Megan Thee Stallion was seen dancing at her show with Jay-Z. Selena Gomez waved to fans as she arrived in this sleek black trench coat. And check out Jay-Z, Chris Rock, and Natalie Portman. Oh, yeah. But the real star of the show, you guys, was Beyonce's 11-year-old daughter, Blue Ivy, who joined her on stage for 2 songs, My Power and Black Parade. What did everybody get to see Blue Ivy perform? You're shaking your head.
Yeah, and what I loved about her is I don't know, if I was trying to be on, I'd be like, ugh! I'd give it my all, and she was like, whatever. It was so cool. She's just the coolest human on earth. Because she came from the 2 coolest people. What are you gonna do? There's no uncoolness.
Do you think that she has pressure being Jay-Z and Beyonce's daughter, or do you think she's accepted?
I don't know. Blue Ivy seems like she's been here before, so she seems very unfazed.
Old soul.
And I'm just sitting there like, when I was 10, my mom used to take me to work, and I would have to sit in a college classroom for the entire day.
It's a little different.
Very different. Very different.
She was good though, wasn't she?
Yeah, that was like that was a different time on the planet when you go work with your parents and just like there would be like a room that no one used with boxes and
highlighters.
Here's some crayons. Yeah, here's some crayons. Room and it smelled like 80s office supplies.
Totally.
Like, I don't want to be here.
Why am I by the copier?
Okay. All right, so John Stamos recently confessed to being a fan of Disneyland while on Keke Palmer's podcast. He said he was feeling a little embarrassed over loving the theme park so much as an adult. Watch.
6-7 years ago, I was like, man, I got to shed this Disney thing because I don't know if it's hurting my acting career, but who's going to take me serious with the Mickey Mouse stuff? I got to sort of distance myself from it. And then I had dinner with Ryan Gosling one night with a bunch of people, and he's like, you're a Disney fan? And I go, yeah. He goes, I'm obsessed. I'm a Disney adult. I go there by myself. I wear headphones. I listen. I go on rides. I have a mixtape. I go, yeah, me too. I'm a Disney guy too. Ryan Gosling could be.
Why did you make some grunts over there?
I don't know. I think I feel the hostility, Sam, because I know how defensive you are about Disney. But you know, I was thinking, how can I relate to the story? And it's like, I like to go to Target in the mall by myself. I like to go to the mall and just walk around and just look at stuff. I like the way the different shops smell. I sound like a creep right now.
You sound so weird.
I do, but I like the
different
food
shops and
smell. He goes, I like how the shops smell.
Like the candle store, and then you get to the food court. It's like it's a whole visual and auditory and smelling experience.
Would you rather go to Taylor Swift by yourself or Disneyland by yourself?
Ooh. Oh my goodness. Oh,
wow, a stunner? A stunner?
Could I sit in the parking lot of either one?
Oh my God, Al!
What do you mean?
You can't just sit in the car all the time.
I'll sit in the car. I would sit in the car all day rather
I know
than
you
Instead
would.
of going to Disneyland, you would sit your butt in the car.
Yes, with the AC.
Are you kidding me right now?
I wouldn't go in by
for
myself.
Disneyland.
As soon as you walk in, you're on a list.
Okay.
Like, oh, there's a weird guy walking around in here.
If you're sitting outside watching and waiting as people are coming and going, then you're on a list, okay?
We'll be right back. You're in trouble. You're in big trouble.
There is nothing I like better than finding a great deal on travel. And it turns out I'm not alone. Verify viewer Catherine emailed us to ask, is there a certain day of the week that's cheapest to buy a plane ticket? So Catherine, let's verify. Our sources are Scott's Cheap Flights, a study by cheapair.com, and Brett Snyder, president of Cranky Concierge Travel Assistance and a former airline pricing analyst. Some studies suggest Tuesday or Saturdays are the cheapest days to buy tickets, but all of our sources say they usually rely on flawed or outdated data. For example, some articles suggest that weekends are the cheapest days to buy. Snyder points out that's based on data that tracks the average amount spent on a ticket each day of the week. Families tend to buy their tickets on weekends and usually purchase less expensive tickets. Meanwhile, business travelers tend to buy their tickets during the week, and many are less price sensitive.
A lot of the business travel, premium cabin or even last minute or whatever it might be, those tend to be higher fares.
The end result is a study that has skewed data. Similar articles suggest Tuesdays offer the best deals, but our sources say that's also not the case. Scott's Cheap Flights explains on its site that this idea is a holdover from the 1990s when airlines used to upload special e-fares on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. These days, Snyder says airlines use sophisticated algorithms to consistently adjust fares based on demand, regardless of what day of the week it is.
This hasn't existed for years. I couldn't tell you the last time when those actually were out there in the market.
So we can verify, no, there is not a certain day of the week that's cheapest to buy a plane ticket. So when should you book? Cheapair.com found domestic tickets are generally cheapest 3 to 15 weeks before departure. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Welcome back. We've got some great products from our friends at MorningSave. Check them out.
Steph, what do you have for us today?
Hi Tori, hey DBL Nation. I am so excited to show off the deals today. As ever, they're fabulous. Get ready to shop because you're going to fall in love with this. First up today, we've got the Adagio Air Straightening Brush. So this deal includes one straightening brush that will simplify your hair routine. This hair tool will dry and style your hair at the same time. It has 3 temperature settings and 2 speed settings to work for all hair types. So normally this is $300. Ooh. You're not going to believe this price. We've got it for just $33.99. So that's saving 89%.
What?
I know.
These are all the rage everywhere on the TikTok and the Insta and the socials, and they save you time. I already have one, but I'll be buying this one as well.
Oh, it saves so much time. Drying and styling your hair in one go, it's honestly the way to go. I love this. Next up today, we've got the Conair Sonic Vibration Facial Cleansing Device. Nice. So this doorbuster deal includes 1 brush base and charging stand and 2 facial brushes. So Conair is a worldwide industry leader, and MorningSave is excited to offer this innovative product from a powerhouse brand at nearly 90% off. MorningSave's doorbuster deals have been wildly popular, but they want to make sure that everyone can get their hands on them. So, you guys, there's a limit of 3 per customer. Oh
my gosh.
Normally this is $80, but we've got it for just $10. So that's saving you guys 88%.
I'll be buying 3 and saving myself all the money and giving gifts and being the best friend you've ever seen.
There you go. This is honestly a great gift, and if you've got bridesmaids, your mum, your sister, whoever, it's great for anyone who loves skincare.
Especially in summer with the sweat, with a good deep cleaning, I'm in.
Exactly.
Wow.
Now, if you're a whiz in the kitchen, which I'm definitely not, but it's going to make me look like I am, we've got the Ginsu Kiso 6-piece steak knife set.
Look at that.
So this deal includes 6 steak knives available in black or purple.
Whoa.
So these are dishwasher safe. They're great for cutting fruits, vegetables, and of course, steak. And Ginsu is a leading brand name in the cutlery industry, and it's well known for their high quality, long lasting pieces.
Yeah, they're very well known.
So normally this is $25, Tori.
Oh, okay.
We have got this 6-piece set for just $12.99. So that is saving 48%.
Everything is so well priced today. This is incredible. And if you have a dark dining room, Steph, don't you think the purple would be cool?
Tori, I love this purple, a great alternative to regular black colors. And also, black always looks so chic.
I agree with you. Nice pop. Very good price.
Now, our last product today is the Truman's Gentleman's Groomers 4-piece hair care kit. This deal includes 2 men's hair styling control pastes and 2 moisturizing shampoos. Now, this is a fabulous Father's Day gift for the guy who has it all, because we know that Dad and Grandpa want to always look good and feel their best. And this set from Truman's Gentleman's Groomers has exactly what any guy needs for a great look. This is $88.
Oh, I was wondering. I'm like, I bet this is pricey.
We've got it for just $24.99.
Never mind.
So that's saving up to 72%.
That is a fabulous deal. And I gotta say, men's care is so, people, they care now. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And these are so snazzy.
And I like the aesthetic on that as well. That's
it's going to look great in your bathroom, you know? I love this.
How does it smell? Good? Take a sniff.
Really nice.
Wow.
Very refreshing.
Head on over to morningsave.com to snag all these amazing deals at the lowest prices. Or, as you know, you can scan the QR code right on screen. It will take you directly to these products right on MorningSave's website. Couldn't be easier. Thank you so much, Steph. We'll be right back.
Sunshine on a cloudy day sure sounds nice, but might not feel so great. Let's verify. Are UV rays stronger on cloudy days? We checked with several sources and found out the answer depends on some specific cloud conditions. A dark day will, of course, block out some sunshine, but our research all concludes many of those skin-damaging rays can still filter through.
Around 80% of the sun rays can penetrate through the clouds.
And some clouds could be worse than none at all. We looked at several studies showing a phenomenon, sometimes called the broken cloud effect, can actually cause the sun's light to reflect and bounce around more intensely. The University of Washington cites research showing UV rays enhanced by 25% on a partly cloudy day compared to a sunny day. If it's a cloudy day on the water, even more reason to lather up. According to the National Council on Skin Cancer Prevention, light bouncing off water and sand can effectively double UV exposure. But the reason for your cloudy day sunburn might be less meteorological and more mental. As in, experts say people often aren't thinking of applying or reapplying sunscreen when they aren't feeling bright, direct rays. Windy days can also cool the skin, and the Skin Cancer Foundation warns can make you more likely to blow off sunscreen.
You're still getting sun exposure and sun damage.
With your Verify, I'm Abby Larico.
Pool season is right around the corner, and as parents are getting their kids ready to splash in the pool, we wanted to know, are brighter colored swimsuits easier to spot if your kid goes underwater? Let's verify.
Our source is a watercolor study from Alive Solutions and Allie Gaines with Charlotte Aquatics. According to Alive Solutions, bright and contrasting colors are easier to see underwater. This is important because if your kid goes underwater for a long period of time, you'll want to easily spot them. The Alive Solutions color test shows some examples. In this series of photos, fabric colors such as bright reds, pinks, blues, and greens show up better when compared to fabrics such as light blue, light gray, black, and white. As you can see, the colors white and light blue basically disappear when underwater. Gaines says drownings are so prevalent in children under the age of 4. She confirms kids should be wearing brightly colored swimsuits.
Neon colors are much better. They're easier to spot in the water.
Gaines says while picking out the perfect swimsuit color is important for parents, it's only a secondary measure for preventing accidents in pools.
If you're not actually watching the water, if you're not actually watching your kids, it's really not going to do very good.
Gaines also suggests putting your kids in swim lessons at an early age to help get them used to being around the water.
So swim lessons are always going to be your number one way to keep your kids safe around the water, best way to prevent drowning. Formal swim lessons actually reduce the risk of drowning by 88%.
So we can verify that yes, brighter colored swimsuits are easier to spot if your kid goes underwater. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
Welcome back to DBL. We love your comments. This is in regard to Disney adults. Lee says, I love Disneyland and World. Could easily go alone. Here. Jamie says, you're never too old to be a Disney kind of guy. And Julia says, I went to Disneyland so often as a child that I have no desire to go back.
Wow, nice life.
I find it to be the happiest place on earth.
I love it so much.
I love it so much.
I miss it. One day when I'm older, I will volunteer on one of those rides.
Oh.
What do you mean volunteer?
And me and Al will be sitting in the parking lot.
In my senior
making fun
golden
of you.
years, I'll be a volunteer on It's a Small World.
What will you be volunteering for?
Okay.
Here's what we're talking about today on Daily Blast Live.
Disney's live action The Little Mermaid makes a big splash at the box office. Is the plot of the movie problematic, though, for today's times? Then, a couple who took in a Ukrainian orphan finds themselves in the middle of a nightmare. Was she actually a 22-year-old con artist at the time of her adoption?
There was a moment when I woke up in the middle of the night and Natalia was standing over my bed with a knife in her hand.
Plus, actress and singer Vanessa Williams tells us all about judging Queen of the Universe while weighing in on our country's drag debate.
We've got some issues right now, letting our drag be an art form.
And Jules' rendition of the national anthem gets mixed reviews. Is changing the melody disrespectful?
Oh my gosh.
Get real.
No. Y'all, just stop.
This is a sham.
It's finally here. Drum roll.
Welcome to DBL. We are all coming back from a long Memorial Day weekend. Before we talk about our day off and all the fun we had, we do want to just say, you know, we are so grateful to all the brave men and women who lost their lives dedicated to our freedom and our country. So Thank you on behalf of all of us. Okay, so let's talk about what did you do this weekend? Were you here? Were you home?
I was with the fam. I sent you guys a couple pictures. My favorite nephew, Josh, got married this weekend.
Josh.
It's crazy because I remember getting the phone call on a landline phone that he was born, and now he's married to the person that he loves. That's me and the kiddos, and that's at the top. That's a picture of my mom with her 3 kids. That's the first picture she's ever had with all 3 of her kids. So it was really a full circle moment for our family, for myself. I told you this is a changing month. I saw my mom get married 3 weeks ago, and my nephew get married this weekend. So I'm good. I'm playing with house money now. Maybe we got a couple, maybe college graduations and weddings to knock out with the kids, but other than that, I'm good.
That's perspective right
That's
there.
unbelievable.
Really
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Congratulations, Al.
Tori, what about you?
I did a little hike with my senior dogs, and I'm a little lazy, so it was a little walk to Netherland, one of our favorite mining towns.
I like it out there.
Oh,
yeah.
Josie Road.
Yeah, and we enjoyed it. If you have senior dogs and you live in Colorado, it's a great place to walk. That's a fishing pond for children, Jeff.
Oh.
And you can throw it back, but it's just for kids.
I've been up there before.
Oh, it's
beautiful.
really nice. So we enjoy. I did have a glass. It was lovely. We can move past that.
It's like, it's like an aquarium.
Okay, and then ice cream. We can also move past the ice cream.
Ooh, and fire, girl.
And then I went to the pool, and it was lovely. I also invited myself and crashed Erica's house, so I was also at Erica's house for part of it.
I'm so jealous. You got in on the spool.
Yeah, it was great.
So jealous.
So good.
Okay, speaking of pools, we went to the pool too all weekend. Our pool just opened, I think, like yours, Jeff, on Friday.
Yes.
We were talking about it. So, Sophie had her first swim meet too.
Yes.
Taking after mom.
Did we have that video that you sent us on the group thread? Please tell me.
The tooth?
Yes.
Okay, so listen, before people say anything, my dad used to remove my teeth when they were wiggly with a string and a door. And it never hurt. So Sophie's tooth was wiggly, and I said, do you want it out so the tooth fairy can come visit? She said yes, and she was focused on getting that tooth fairy to come visit.
Of course.
So we tied, here's the video, tied the tooth, slammed the door,
oh my
out
God.
it came.
Oh my God.
Yep, and it worked, man, it works. Boom, there it went.
Oh my God.
But of course, I made sure she wanted to do it.
Yeah, of course, of
I
course.
like that you have to explain now.
It's true.
You know what I mean? It's so annoying.
It is.
It's so annoying.
I don't need people writing me saying that it's child abuse.
Yes.
That's what people say?
No, but I know she's right.
She's right.
Because I prefaced it when first of all, I shared that video only with friends because I don't need comments from people who might question my judgment as a parent, not knowing the full context in the situation.
I showed my wife.
comment.
That was amazing.
That was awesome.
I said that girl's got heart. She's a tough one.
She's a fighter.
Yeah.
She is a fighter. We also saw The Little Mermaid.
Oh.
So that was fun. All the mom friends, look at them. They all got dressed up. One of them, Cora, is in a tail.
Wow.
And then look at them.
Is that the movie theater or the Enterprise?
No, that's the aquarium, Al.
Did you see those seats?
It was very nice.
It was like really nice.
Yeah, that's what movie theaters look like.
Not all of them?
Yeah, they do now.
No, they don't.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
So speaking of The Little Mermaid, you guys. Speaking of The Little Mermaid, so one thing that many Americans did this weekend, maybe some of our viewers here, they went and saw, just like us, Disney's live-action remake of The Little Mermaid. The film won the box office, taking in $121 million in its opening weekend alone. But reviews of the film are mixed, with some critics slamming it for lacking creativity and fun. Meantime, some people are calling out the film for its message to young girls, including British singer Paloma Faith. She posted this to Instagram saying, quote, "I don't want my kids to think it's okay to give up your entire voice and your powers to love a man. Not what I want to be teaching the next generation of women at all." So what do we think of the plot of The Little Mermaid? Do you think it's problematic? What would you say, Erica?
I would say that we knew what this movie was. I mean, it wasn't like a new script. And although there were changes, clearly, in order to make it less problematic or more today's standards, it's also an animated live-action film. But you actually saw it. So what were your thoughts?
I feel like I saw a different movie than her. Because,
what were your thoughts?
Can I give away some things? Can I say spoiler alert?
I feel like it's been 20, 30 years.
We know.
No, there's changes, Erica. So Ariel is the one that, we all know that she saved Eric in the beginning. She also saves him in the end. She's the one that defeats Ursula. Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah, not Eric like in the original.
Oh.
And she also saves her dad, King Triton. So for me, not only did she, and before she even saw Eric up on that boat, if you remember, not only in the original, but it's more introduced here, she always had an infatuation with humans. Eric was like, you know, the straw that broke the camel's back, where she's like, I need to do this. She made up her decision. This is what she wanted to do. So I saw that as being brave, going against her father, who's the king, saying, this is what I want. And there's one line at the very end that got me, which is a new line where after she saved her dad, who was literally dying after Ursula, again, spoiler alert, hit him with the Triton. He looked at her, and she had already gotten her voice back, which she got back, by the way, because she's the one that defeated Ursula. She got her own voice back. But she looked at her father, and he turned her fin back into legs. And she had agency over her own body. And she looked at her dad, and she said, thank you for hearing me. He goes, you shouldn't have had to have lost your voice in order for me to hear you. Now, if that's not a feminist, beautiful undertone, I don't know what is. I think Halle Bailey did an amazing job, and she knocked it out of the park. Anyways.
Can I ask you one question very quickly about it? That sounds fantastic, and I can't wait to go. I did play Scuttle in a performance.
You did? Scuttle's amazing.
Jingle Hopper.
I will pay $10,000 for that video.
Excellent. I will get it to you. I will get it to you.
Yes.
Quick question. You know how the animation is fun and colorful? Is the live actions too natural? I don't want you know what I mean? I don't want it too under the sea. I still want it to be like under the sea.
It's beautiful.
Okay.
The colors are beautiful.
Good.
And I'm a huge original Little Mermaid fan. This one surpasses it.
Oh, wow.
Surpasses the expectations. It's much more strong. Even before you kiss the girl, there's this line in there about it being like Ariel's choice. Like, in my opinion, it wasn't too woke. It empowered young girls to like have agency over their bodies, to be heroes. Sophie looked at me and said, Mom, she's a hero, when she saved her own father.
Oh, my word.
And there's another part in it, because you mentioned Scuttle. Sorry, this is just, it was amazing.
I'm amazed by this.
So Scuttle's played by Awkwafina, and it was so cool because Lin-Manuel Miranda is the one that did the soundtrack, just like in Encanto. There's a song I predict is going to be all over, just like We Don't Talk About Bruno. This one is called Scuttlebutt. And I guess a scuttlebutt is a gossip back in the ship days. So there's a whole song called I'm a scuttlebutt, scuttlebutt. And one of my friends who likes to like stay with the Joneses in the neighborhood turned to me and goes, oh no, am I the scuttlebutt?
She's all, yeah.
Okay, clearly I like the movie. Sorry. Anybody want to add anything to this?
I think we're done.
After your term paper of The Little Mermaid.
I thought it was good.
Wait, there is another.
I think it's time for a commercial.
No, there's another controversy, Jeff. There always is.
I know about
over the makeup artist who was responsible for Melissa McCarthy's transformation, who knocked it out of the park also to become Ursula. Now, the original Ursula's villainous look was based on a drag queen icon named Divine, but people took issue with the fact that the makeup artist who did the look is not queer, nor had he done drag makeup before. The makeup artist is responding, Peter Smith King, saying, quote, why can't I do as good as a job as a queer makeup artist. So what do we think of this? What do you think, Tori?
Okay, first of all, he can. Absolutely. That's fine with me. But I will have to say, the makeup in the animation is so much more interesting than what I thought Ursula's makeup was. Now, I want to talk to Dre, of course, our makeup artist, and we'll go to the break and talk to him about it. The green, the weird eyebrows just seem flat and boring. If you watch the Ursula animated, it's got sparkles. It's blue. It's like aqua. It's like underwater. And I wish they had played with some of that. Vanessa Williams has, for instance, has a great sparkle line at Sephora, and incorporated some of Divine into that because she's well known to have been based on Divine, and Divine's Divine.
Yeah, very Divine. Yeah, but Melissa McCarthy did great, Tori. You'd be very proud of her.
Oh,
Unbelievable. Michael Dean said that was his favorite character.
Really?
Okay, enough about The Little Mermaid. Coming up on DBL, our interview with actress and singer Vanessa Williams. She's telling us all about being a judge on the drag competition Queen of the Universe, and Jules' rendition of the national anthem gets mixed reviews. Is changing the melody disrespectful?
Our viewers are talking about DBL.
Yes!
I like that.
Leaves me speechless and like blushing.
Thank you, thank you.
That's emotional.
Do I want to sit there and watch them? Yes, I do.
So we're trying to get Dre. Dre's also worked in drag and is a fantastic creative director and makeup artist. So I wanted to get his take on Ursula.
Oh, go for it.
Are you listening to water? What's going on?
My wife sent me a video of the kids.
I was like, is he under the sea? So is okay, good. Is kiss the girl? Because in the movie, it's very much like don't have consent, just kiss the girl. How did they? No, but it's very much like don't worry about it, just go for it.
Yeah. So the way they did it differently, is they rephrased leading up to it. You have to kiss Prince Eric. So you like almost like she would, you could tell that that's all she wanted. So she has, but they don't change the lyrics in the song. When the song comes, it's the original song, but it's already been built up. And then there's a point too where Sebastian points out that when they even bring up the kiss, she kind of goes into a spell of a fog. So they kind of, I think, have that layer on top too, where she's not even aware. But then they never kiss anyways because
they fall.
They don't
right,
kiss?
Right, they fall. That's the whole point. Oh, kiss though. Oh. Remember, they go to.
What?
They want you to talk about Ursula. I wanted to give you the opportunity because I thought it was a little boring. Not that he had to be queer, but I thought the makeup was boring and should have been more like Divine.
Oh no, it was flat and terrible.
That's what I said.
No, you could see the glue on the brows. They tried to glue back her brows.
And the green
that was
was
horrible
boring.
back. There was no symmetry in her actual complexion. Her brows were like this. There wasn't a roundness to the brows, unfortunately, which is like the whole Divine character. What's being said a lot in the film world right now is that Melissa McCarthy actually had the directive to control the narrative of how that was being portrayed. But the bottom line is she looked like Auntie's 80s Ursula and not
great.
like 2023 Ursula.
I totally, and with all that makeup, I said Vanessa Williams.
Absolutely.
You could have done really cool.
Welcome back. The Indianapolis 500 was this weekend, and Jules sang the national anthem, but she had her own take on the Star-Spangled Banner that left a lot of folks upset. Let's watch together, and you can decide what you think. Take a look.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
So a lot of people online were quick to criticize. One person wrote, "For the love of God, just sing the national anthem as it's meant to be sung. Don't put your own spin on it, sacrilegious." And another person said, "Jewel butchered the national anthem." People were trying to sing along but couldn't because of the way she sang it. What do you think, Jeff?
I think I had fun this weekend. I was with my family and I drank and was at the pool. I never once went to a movie and said, you took away a little girl's freedom for the Little Mermaid. I never listened to the national anthem and got online and told everybody my opinions about it. It's insane where we're at. I thought that was beautiful, by the way.
Me too.
I don't think
I
it's
thought it was
sacrilegious. I don't think it's disrespectful to the national anthem. And I usually stick up for things like that. It's Jules' take as an artist to put her own spin on what she thinks the national anthem should sound like. And I like a little bit of twist. I don't like the same old thing. I thought that was beautiful.
Absolutely.
I didn't see what the problem was, and I know people were upset because they couldn't sing along, but nobody was asking them to sing. They asked Jewel to sing, and Jewel sang, and I thought it was beautiful. And it wasn't like a creation where it's so far removed from the original that you're like stuck on the performance. She was hitting all the notes.
She sounded
It was very
hauntingly beautiful.
melodic. I want to listen to the whole thing.
Yeah, imagine you're Francis Scott Key, who wrote it. It's the dawn's early light. It's cold. You have bombs bursting in air, and you see the wave of the American flag, and you write a poem. Oh, 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 say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail, right? She sung it like it was in the morning, like a poem, like it was just starting, and it's probably the way he wrote it.
I think we want you to do the national anthem. Just like
it's a beautiful,
say, can you see?
It was never like, oh, say, can you see? It was always a quiet poem that was so beautifully worded that it became the national anthem.
Honestly, if we're joking around, but you just gave your own take on the national anthem, and if somebody hired Tori to do the national anthem, that's how you would do it. You would talk us through it, and you would explain
or Sam to break down the Little Mermaid.
You paint a picture, there's passion behind what you're saying, and you know, my girl works for the Rockies, so I hear a lot of national anthems, I hear a lot of America the Beautiful.
Are there a bunch of different renditions?
Sometimes it's just a dude playing the sax.
Yeah.
Or an organ, like it was on Saturday.
Jimi Hendrix. Remember the famous electric guitar one?
He destroyed the country when he did that. It was one of the most popular renditions. So I think we need to understand that this is art, and let's not lose sight of the fact that this song is meant to mean something. We're not talking just about musical taste here at this point. So I think, again, like you said, Jeff, just some people need to, let's take a weekend, guys. It's been a rough couple of years. Let's just take a weekend. We'll start back on Tuesday.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well said. We're all in agreement. That's rare. I love it. Coming up on DBL, we're talking with the fabulous Vanessa Williams, all about judging the drag singing contest Queen of the Universe.
There is nothing I like better than finding a great deal on travel. And it turns out, I'm not alone. Verify viewer Catherine emailed us to ask, is there a certain day of the week that's cheapest to buy a plane ticket? So Catherine, let's verify. Our sources are Scott's Cheap Flights, a study by cheapair.com, and Brett Snyder, president of Cranky Concierge Travel Assistance and a former airline pricing analyst. Some studies suggest Tuesday or Saturdays are the cheapest days to buy tickets, but all of our sources say they usually rely on flawed or outdated data. For example, some articles suggest that weekends are the cheapest days to buy. Snyder points out that's based on data that tracks the average amount spent on a ticket each day of the week. Families tend to buy their tickets on weekends and usually purchase less expensive tickets. Meanwhile, business travelers tend to buy their tickets during the week, and many are less price sensitive.
A lot of the business travel, premium cabin or even last minute or whatever it might be, those tend to be higher fares.
The end result is a study that has skewed data. Similar articles suggest Tuesdays offer the best deals, but our sources say that's also not the case. Scott's Cheap Flights explains on its site that this idea is a holdover from the 1990s when airlines used to upload special e-fares on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. These days, Snyder says airlines use sophisticated algorithms to consistently adjust fares based on demand, regardless of what day of the week it is.
This hasn't existed for years. I couldn't tell you the last time when those actually were out there in the market.
So we can verify, no, there is not a certain day of the week that's cheapest to buy a plane ticket. So when should you book? Cheapair.com found domestic tickets are generally cheapest 3 to 15 weeks before departure. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Let the drag extravaganza begin!
The Queen of the Universe.
The world's first ever vocal drag competition is bigger than ever. It's an all-new season of Queen of the Universe.
Time to spice up the competition. Are you ready for your life to change?
Welcome back to DBL. That was a clip from season 2 of Queen of the Universe. And earlier we spoke with one of its judges, the multi-talented Vanessa Williams. Take a look. Oh my goodness, she is a Tony, Grammy, and Emmy nominated actress and singer. Please welcome to DBL, Vanessa Williams.
Yes. Wow.
Yes.
Vanessa, let's jump right in. You look beautiful. I have to point that out. I'm a little
Thank
nervous.
you.
Let's talk about Queen of the Universe, not you, the show. The costumes, makeup, and dancing are over the top. So what is the craziest thing to happen backstage so far?
So Queen of the Universe, this is season 2 on Paramount Plus, and it is a drag queen singing competition that is live. So there is no lip syncing. This is all live singing. The drag is out of this world. There are some costumes and some bodies and some faces that are incredible. And there's also some heartwarming moments. There's a couple of moments where you'll see family members get a chance to interact with the queens that are in competition. And it shows the humanity and the acceptance and the support that is behind the scenes for this spectacular moment. It's great to be a judge. I get a chance to sit back and watch all the festivities.
Yes, we live for fabulous queens, yourself included. Now, but this is a global show. But are other countries more accepting of drag than America? And where does our country rank in the world of acceptance when it comes to drag?
Good question.
Good question. There are some that are more severe that, especially you've heard on our, when we did season 1, there was a queen from India, and she said, it is a danger in my country to do what I love to do. So that was a heartbreaking story. And then there's also ones that are celebrated. We've got one queen from Australia, and it is an art form that has been celebrated for years, and it is wonderful. So in terms of where we are as a country, yeah, we've got some issues right now. Letting our drag be an art form. It is an art form. It is not predatory. These are queens that have made a life and career out of transformation and bringing joy.
I love that you said that, because I was going to follow up and ask why America needs this type of show right now. And I think you absolutely said it all, because it's also about the safety of our performers and how much we, some of us, everyone on this panel, wants to protect that. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And it's showbiz. They're singing their hearts out. They're wearing amazing clothing, doing incredible choreography with dancers around them. And it's for production value. We're putting on a show so the whole family can enjoy it.
All right. Well, let's stay on the track of showbiz. Now, we read that there's a limited series about your Miss America scandal that's possibly in the works. First of all, is that true? And what is the biggest misconception about your story?
Well, the idea is true. We are getting the team together. So there's, I don't have a release date, but it is in motion. Probably the biggest misconception, I think, is that, I was a musical theater major before I became famous. And what beauty queen labels tend to do is negate any kind of talent you have or intellect. So it took me longer to actually show who I was when people would accept me than normally if I had just graduated from university, went to graduate school, went to Broadway. There would have been none of the skepticism that I had to barrel through, which took a long, long time.
That is powerful.
I think you showed them.
I think so too. Yes.
Well done.
DBL Nation, season 2 of Queen of the Universe premieres June 2nd on Paramount Plus. Vanessa, thank you so much for chatting with us today. Congratulations on everything. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Sunshine on a cloudy day sure sounds nice, but might not feel so great. Let's verify. Are UV rays stronger on cloudy days? We checked with several sources and found out the answer depends on some specific cloud conditions. A dark day will, of course, block out some sunshine, but our research all concludes many of those skin-damaging rays can still filter through.
Around 80% of the sun rays can penetrate through the clouds.
And some clouds could be worse than none at all. We looked at several studies showing a phenomenon, sometimes called the broken cloud effect, can actually cause the sun's light to reflect and bounce around more intensely. The University of Washington cites research showing UV rays enhanced by 25% on a partly cloudy day compared to a sunny day. If it's a cloudy day on the water, even more reason to lather up. According to the National Council on Skin Cancer Prevention, light bouncing off water and sand can effectively double UV exposure. But the reason for your cloudy day sunburn might be less meteorological and more mental. As in, experts say people often aren't thinking of applying or reapplying sunscreen when they aren't feeling bright, direct rays. Windy days can also cool the skin, and the Skin Cancer Foundation warns can make you more likely to blow off sunscreen.
You're still getting sun exposure and sun damage.
With your Verify, I'm Abby Larico.
Pool season is right around the corner, and as parents are getting their kids ready to splash in the pool, we wanted to know, are brighter colored swimsuits easier to spot if your kid goes underwater? Let's verify. Our source is a watercolor study from Alive Solutions and Allie Gaines with Charlotte Aquatics. According to Alive Solutions, bright and contrasting colors are easier to see underwater. This is important because if your kid goes underwater for a long period of time, you'll want to easily spot them. The Alive Solutions color test shows some examples. In this series of photos, fabric colors such as bright reds, pinks, blues, and greens show up better when compared to fabrics such as light blue, light gray, black, and white. As you can see, the colors white and light blue basically disappear when underwater. Gaines says drownings are so prevalent in children under the age of 4. She confirms kids should be wearing brightly colored swimsuits.
Neon colors are much better. They're easier to spot in the water.
Gaines says while picking out the perfect swimsuit color is important for parents, it's only a secondary measure for preventing accidents in pools.
If you're not actually watching the water, if you're not actually watching your kids, it's really not going to do very good.
Gaines also suggests putting your kids in swim lessons at an early age to help get them used to being around the water.
So swim lessons are always going to be your number one way to keep your kids safe around the water, a best way to prevent drowning. Formal swim lessons actually reduce the risk of drowning by 88%.
So we can verify that yes, brighter colored swimsuits are easier to spot if your kid goes underwater. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
We love sharing your comments. In regard to Jewel and the national anthem, Keith says Jewel put passion into the feeling of the song. She's a talented musician who I respect and has every right to include her take. And Myra says it still had the basic melody. What's the problem? It was nice. Exactly.
Shout out Jewel.
If you're leaving us, you can watch the second half of the show online. Watch on YouTube, dailyblesslive.com, or our mobile app. But if you get the second half of the show where you are, here's what's ahead. A couple who took in an orphan from Ukraine find themselves in the middle of a nightmare. Was she actually a 22-year-old con artist at the time of her adoption? And Succession fans are talking about the series finale, which has us thinking, what are the best finales of all time?
Walk into your favorite store and you'll see a wall of choices to protect your skin from the sun. A Verify viewer texted us asking about the difference between spray-on and lotion sunscreens. So let's verify. Are spray-on sunscreens as effective as lotions? Our sources are Harvard Health and 2 board-certified dermatologists to explain it's all about how you apply sunscreen.
I think it's easier with a lotion to make sure that you're getting full coverage. With a spray, you may not be as careful. So that is a consideration with the spray.
Dr. Rajani Kanta also says despite the advertising, you can't simply spray and go.
I recommend that you spray and then you make sure that you rub it in so that you're not missing any of those, you're not missing any spots.
Harvard Health found when spraying, most people apply just a quarter of what they need. Researchers recommend spraying each area for up to 6 seconds.
You know that you have enough when your skin glistens. If it's not glistening, you gotta put more.
But Dr. Danilo Del Campo says that doesn't mean sprays, when used properly, are any less effective than lotions.
Between a lotion that has SPF 30 and a spray that's SPF 30, they are equivalent. However, the difference is how do we apply it and the method that we apply it.
So we can verify, yes, spray-on sunscreens are as effective as lotions. However, they may be more difficult to use correctly than lotions. The doctors also say parents may want to use lotions for their children because it's harder to spray a good coating when kids are squirming around. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
Oh my gosh.
Get real.
No. Y'all, just stop.
This is a sham.
It's finally here. Drum roll. Welcome to DBL. Okay, so let's get right into something that you will not believe. Of all the strange adoption stories out there, very few are as unbelievable as the case of Natalia Grace. Watch.
You may remember the unusual story of Natalia Grace, a Ukrainian orphan with severe dwarfism adopted by the Barnett family in Indiana, then allegedly abandoned years later.
Then out of nowhere, we got a phone call from an adoption agency in Florida. They had reached out to us and they said, hey, we've got the perfect child for you. Here's all we're gonna give you. Here's 2 pictures. Here's a Ukrainian language birth certificate. And here's 1 doctor visit from 2 years before. You have 24 hours to tell us whether or not you want to adopt her. We went and signed paperwork, and the next thing you know, Natalia was ours.
They began to suspect things were not what they seemed with Natalia.
Now we're very concerned and very worried. Is Natalia 6? Is she older? We would find knives under her bed. There was a moment when I woke up in the middle of the night and Natalia was standing over my bed with a knife in her hand. She began to attempt to harm my sons in a very serious manner.
I'm going to kill you, you're gonna die.
She was re-aged as a 22-year-old and given an apartment. She was then taken in by another family nearby a year later.
Prosecutors allege that in July of 2013, the Barnetts left their daughter in the Lafayette apartment, then moved to Canada.
For years, her story was scrutinized.
A 6 or 7-year-old child living in an apartment alone for a year? That's just not believable to me. Are you a 33-year-old scam artist?
No. But what if that is not the full story?
A woman who claims to be Natalia Barnett's biological birth mother has come forward to say that she is a child.
What if this adult, pretending to be a child, was actually a child the entire time? Will we ever learn the truth of what happened? Only time will tell.
Wow, joining us now to talk all about the curious case of Natalia Grace, please welcome to the show veteran legal expert Beth Karras.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So let's just go to the start. How did Natalia come into the Barnett family's lives?
She had been adopted by a family in New Hampshire about 2 years earlier in 2008 when she was supposedly 4 years old and unloaded. They didn't want her after about a year, it appears. They were trying to pass her off, almost sell her to another little family, little people family a couple of times. And when that was unsuccessful, they dropped her off at an adoption agency in Florida. Now, they were from New Hampshire. And that's when the Barnetts got the call that they had 24 hours to come and get this little girl, or else she was going to be turned over to foster care. And that was in 2010, so they thought they were adopting a 6-year-old.
So when did the Barnett family begin to suspect that maybe she was much older?
Almost immediately. There were signs almost immediately when Christine, the mother, gave her a bath. They were still in Florida, hadn't gotten back to Indiana yet. And she noticed that Natalia was very mature sexually. She had pubic hair. And they thought, well, she's 6 years old, so what's going on here? Were they off by a few years or more than a few years in her age?
Now, the answer to Natalia's age is still, I can't believe this, still a mystery. In actuality, how old was Natalia while this was going on?
Well, we don't know for sure.
Right.
If you believe her Ukrainian birth certificate, she was actually 8 years old when she was re-aged to 22 and left on her own in an apartment that was not modified for someone with a disability.
Oh
She's
my
a little
gosh.
person. This was a tall counters and bathtub and sinks, and wasn't modified for her. But yet she was 8 years old. The 8-year-old can live on their own.
Wow. All right, follow up to that. Do you feel like the stories of her plotting to kill the family, which we all know as the narrative, some people are saying that was made up. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there may be some truth to it, but you have to consider that it's really just coming from the Barnetts.
Right.
There's no corroboration of that. And perhaps they're making it worse than it was. But you have to consider also that Natalia may have been acting out. If she was a child, we don't know what those first years of her life were like. Was she sexually abused? She didn't know boundaries. Was she, I don't know, just kind of engaging in some sort of self-protection, some mechanism that was triggered because of her past.
Right, that's where my mind went. But I have to ask you this, because I know you've uncovered everything in this story. If the Barnetts were making this up, what do you believe? Do you believe that there was some sort of motive to distance themselves from her? What do you think that is?
Well, once their son Jacob got a full scholarship to Canada, I mean, they really did have a hard time with Natalia, whether it was their fault or hers or a combination. That is the truth. And they wanted to unload her. She was theirs legally, but I think they wanted to get to Canada and get Jacob educated, bring their sons with them. And they had her re-aged, and it was a way to just kind of get rid of her. So that could be one motive, because they claim they tried to use other resources. They tried to get psychological help for her and police. And I mean, they said, no, she's your problem, basically. So like, okay, we're going to get rid of our problem. We're going to do it legally.
I have to ask, does anybody know where she is now?
Yes, she's in Indiana. She was taken in by another family, and she is older, well-adjusted. She's either 19, turning 20 later this year, or 34, depending on what you believe. Wow. And she's doing quite well.
Wow, Beth, this case is absolutely crazy. Thank you for sharing your expert analysis. DBL Nation, the curious case of Natalia Grace continues tonight on ID. Thank you so much, Beth.
Thanks.
We appreciate you.
Thanks,
we'll be
my
right
partner.
back. Thank you.
Our viewers are talking about DBL.
Yes!
I like that.
Leaves me speechless. I'm like blushing.
Thank you, thank you.
That's emotional.
Do I want to sit there and watch them? Yes, I do.
Okay. Hey guys, there's a movie Orphan that came out like recently, am I right? That has like a very similar plot. That movie was based on this story, but the players in this story actually didn't even know about Orphan when we did, our producers did an interview. He had to tell them about that movie. So, oh, okay. It was based on a similar story, so we don't know. Yeah, similar story, so it's not connected in any way to that. Yeah, I guess it's not connected. I mean, I was saying it's not connected.
But it is a crazy, crazy story.
Yeah.
I remember that Dr. Phil clip because we were on, I don't know how many years ago, but we were doing this show at the time.
We had to react to that.
Yeah, we did it on the show, and I remember that. And now the follow-up, and it's still nobody knows the truth. Can you tell by someone's, like a dentist, to get their age or blood test? There's got to be something you could, because they do it with dead bodies that they exhume, and they're like, oh, this person was between the age of this, just on their, or maybe they do a lot of bone structure, so maybe being a little person, the bone structure is not the same.
Okay, because I was like, they absolutely do bone length. Not only that is interesting, the teeth seem like the best bet.
Right.
You absolutely can see if a child's teeth hasn't come in yet, but I wonder if they can't get permission to look at her dental records. Perhaps there's some privacy. Well, that's her right. I mean, she has to have a probable cause to be.
Oh, maybe she doesn't want
Right,
them
you know what
to
I'm saying? And if that case is,
well,
is she,
if you were trying to prove that you're right, why wouldn't you prove?
Well, she pulled out the birth certificate, and the original mom came out to say, but I feel like that can also be faked.
Tori,
Thank you.
Does anybody remember on Oprah when there was that controversy about that mom that sent her Russian orphan back to Russia? Do you guys remember that? You remember Russia?
Yeah, was she?
Yeah, she like sent her.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, she said the kid was violent.
Yeah.
And was she was lied to. They were on Oprah.
Yeah. Okay.
Welcome back to DBL. The hit show Succession came to an end on Sunday, and we finally learned the fate of the Roy children. Spoiler alert for anyone who has not seen the finale. Cover your ears. In a twist, Tom Logan, Roy's son-in-law, swooped in and became the American CEO of the family business, which ended up being sold. Many fans were pleased with the finale, even though none of Logan's 3 children came out on top. But that got us thinking about some other season finales that left fans divided. Some fans hated when Dexter wrapped things up by having the lead character retreat to a lumberyard in Oregon. The ending of The Sopranos is still debated after the audience finds Tony and his family sharing onion rings at a diner, and then the scene just cuts to black. But Game of Thrones might take the cake for the most polarizing series finale of all. What do we think is the worst and the best? Tori, do you have like one show that you felt like failed you?
Lost. I was in forums, I told them I was in clubs. We would discuss and we would evaluate, and we took it seriously, and they promised us. Damon Lindelof said, it's not that they're dead. They're not in purgatory, and what happened? They were dead. They were in purgatory. And it really was like, I invested all this stupid time. But the other one that I love, first of all, I have to give a shout out to MASH, because MASH had a wonderful ending that was a lot of people have already brought up. But Breaking Bad, I thought, had a really good ending, and it ended at the right time.
Yeah, I think Lost was a tough one too, because there were so many episodes of it.
Dude, I was like 7 seasons, 10, whatever.
It was a lot. It was
Too
a lot.
much.
It was a lot of Lost.
Any shows you were disappointed with?
It wasn't like the end of the world. I wonder if anybody else feels like this. The Wire. In a lot of ways, it really helped explain like what like City Hall does, and like how the mayor is wrapped in with the police chief. And I didn't understand any of that, and it really illuminated like a lot of like what city issues are. But at the end, the last season, it was like based around the newspaper and a weird story, and especially coming off the heels of season 4, I think 2 and 4 were the best seasons. It was just it didn't hold up. It wasn't like it ruined the season for me, but it was just like you could have done it. I think wrap it up at 4. Less seasons is better.
Erica, did you get disappointed by any specific series? Or Jeff? I know.
Well, I mean, we all wanted to know who shot JR, but I mean, other than that.
Yeah, bring it back.
Bring it right back.
That's a good one.
Oh, this
J.R.
show,
Ewing.
of course.
You
Big
watched
Mama
Dallas?
and I were very, that was a big thing.
Okay,
It was
Big
huge.
Mama, that was your
Yes.
bonding time.
That was back when there was one TV in the house and you just watched what everybody watched.
Yes.
So I get it. Yes.
You were watching like Young and the Restless with your grandma, right?
Me and my grandma, we watch Young and the Restless during the day. At night on Fridays, we watch Falcon Crest, Empty Nest, Amen,
I loved Empty Nest.
227.
Amen and
It was like
227.
no one had this like 89 channels. It was like there's one TV, and I guess Gem and the Holograms.
You're welcome.
I'd be watching that because my sister's watching it, so I still know the theme song.
We still don't give enough credit to the Golden Girls for making it okay to sit down after 8 o'clock and eat cheesecake.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That changed my whole life. Having that cheesecake, watching television.
Yeah, I was disappointed in Game of Thrones that final season because I was such a big fan. Yeah. So the way that ended, hopefully they fill those shoes. Snow is coming out soon, so it's follows
Snoon?
Jon Huh?
Did you say Snow's coming out soon?
Did I?
I thought so.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't hear that. I think.
I'm surprised you didn't get mad at me about 1899.
Oh, that show sucked. I don't even know if I can say that, but it's horrible. And
You loved it the first 5 episodes.
After that, they had a child write the last 5 episodes.
You're right.
Okay.
I'm with Jeff there. I'm with Jeff.
All right.
Okay, more stars came out to support Taylor Swift's Eras Tour over the weekend. Molly Ringwald caught the show at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey on Sunday with Hamilton star Lin-Manuel Miranda. Paul Rudd was also there and waved to a very excited fan. And check out Aaron Rodgers getting into the groove with actors Miles Teller and Bradley Cooper. Aaron was also spotted at another show, dancing along to Shake It Off by himself. Who knew? Such big Taylor Swift fans. What's the
No, I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers, and it's like starting to answer a question I've had since I turned 40. Can you go to a concert or a club by yourself and just dance? Because I don't want to go to a club and like hit on people, but I want to go like I used to go to hip hop concerts pre-COVID by myself. But then are you the weird guy that's like, oh, look at Al Jackson in the corner dancing by himself?
No.
I don't know. Is that weird? Because I mean, it's not a great look. It's not great, but is it okay?
It seems okay to me.
I'm not getting arousing. No, I think you're all right. Like we support
I think it's okay.
Would you ever do that, Erica?
Sure.
You go to a concert by yourself?
Yeah, I guess I could.
That's a no.
I mean, I've gone to concerts where I was like working, so I wasn't there.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's being
I get it. I'm with
No,
you.
Taylor Swift wasn't the only singer bringing out the stars. Beyonce rolled out the red carpet for some of her famous friends while making a stop in Paris for her Renaissance tour. Megan Thee Stallion was seen dancing at her show with Jay-Z. Selena Gomez waved to fans as she arrived in this sleek black trench coat. And check out Jay-Z, Chris Rock, and Natalie Portman. Oh, yeah. But the real star of the show, you guys, was Beyonce's 11-year-old daughter, Blue Ivy, who joined her on stage for 2 songs, My Power and Black Parade. What did everybody get to see Blue Ivy perform? You're shaking your head.
Yeah, and what I loved about her, I don't know, if I was trying to be on, I'd be like, ugh! I'd give it my all, and she was like, whatever. It was so cool. She's just the coolest human on earth. Because she came from the 2 coolest people. What are you gonna do? There's no uncoolness in her.
Do you think that she has pressure being Jay-Z and Beyonce's daughter, or do you think she's accepted?
No. I don't know. Blue Ivy seems like she's been here before, so she seems very unfazed.
Old soul.
And I'm just sitting there like, when I was 10, my mom used to take me to work, and I would have to sit in a college classroom for the entire day.
It's a little different.
Very different. Very different.
Yeah. She was good though, wasn't she?
Yeah, that was like that was a different time on the planet when you go to work with your parents and just like there would be like a room that no one used with boxes and
highlighters.
Here's some crayons. Yeah, here's some crayons.
Room and it smelled like 80s office supplies.
Totally.
Like, I don't want to be here.
Why am I by the copier?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So John Stamos recently confessed to being a fan of Disneyland while on Keke Palmer's podcast. He said he was feeling a little embarrassed over loving the theme park so much as an adult. Watch.
6-7 years ago, I was like, man, I got to shed this Disney thing because I don't know if it's hurting my acting career, but who's going to take me serious with the Mickey Mouse stuff? I got to sort of distance myself from it. And then I'm at dinner with Ryan Gosling one night with a bunch of people, and he's like, you're a Disney fan? And I go, yeah. He goes, I'm obsessed. I'm a Disney adult. I go there by myself. I wear headphones. I listen. I go on rides. I have a mixtape. I go, yeah, me too. I'm a Disney guy too. Ryan Gosling could be.
Why did you make some grunts over there?
I don't know. I think I feel the hostility, Sam, because I know how defensive you are about Disney. But I was thinking, how can I relate to the story? And it's like, I like to go to Target in the mall by myself. I like to go to the mall and just walk around and just look at stuff. I like the way the different shops smell. I sound like a creep right now.
You sound so weird.
I do, but I like the
different
food
shops and
smell. He goes, I like how the shops smell.
Like the candle store, and then you get to the food court. It's like it's a whole visual and auditory and smelling experience.
Would you rather go to Taylor Swift by yourself or Disneyland by yourself?
Ooh. Oh my goodness. Oh.
Wow, a stunner? A stunner?
Could I sit in the parking lot of either one by myself?
Oh my God, Al.
What do you mean?
You can't just sit in the car all the time.
Sit in the car. I would sit in the car all day
I know you would.
Instead of going to Disneyland, you would sit your butt in the car.
Yes, with the AC.
Are you kidding me right now?
I wouldn't go in by myself. As soon as you walk in, you're on a list.
Okay.
Like, oh, there's a weird guy walking around in here.
If you're sitting outside, watching and waiting as people are coming and going, then you're on a list, okay?
We'll be right back. You're in trouble. You're in big trouble.
There is nothing I like better than finding a great deal on travel. And it turns out I'm not alone. Verify viewer Catherine emailed us to ask, is there a certain day of the week that's cheapest to buy a plane ticket? So Catherine, let's verify. Our sources are Scott's Cheap Flights, a study by cheapair.com, and Brett Snyder, president of Cranky Concierge Travel Assistance and a former airline pricing analyst. Some studies suggest Tuesday or Saturdays are the cheapest days to buy tickets, but all of our sources say they usually rely on flawed or outdated data. For example, some articles suggest that weekends are the cheapest days to buy. Snyder points out that's based on data that tracks the average amount spent on a ticket each day of the week. Families tend to buy their tickets on weekends and usually purchase less expensive tickets. Meanwhile, business travelers tend to buy their tickets during the week, and many are less price sensitive.
A lot of the business travel, premium cabin or even last minute or whatever it might be, those tend to be higher fares.
The end result is a study that has skewed data. Similar articles suggest Tuesdays offer the best deals, but our sources say that's also not the case. Scott's Cheap Flights explains on its site that this idea is a holdover from the 1990s when airlines used to upload special e-fares on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. These days, Snyder says airlines use sophisticated algorithms to consistently adjust fares based on demand, regardless of what day of the week it is.
This hasn't existed for years. I couldn't tell you the last time when those actually were out there in the market.
So we can verify, no, there is not a certain day of the week that's cheapest to buy a plane ticket. So when should you book? Cheapair.com found domestic tickets are generally cheapest 3 to 15 weeks before departure. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Welcome back. We've got some great products from our friends at MorningSave. Check them out.
Steph, what do you have for us today?
Hi Tori, hey DBL Nation. I am so excited to show off the deals today. As ever, they're fabulous. Get ready to shop because you're going to fall in love with this. First up today, we've got the Adagio Air Straightening Brush. So this deal includes one straightening brush that will simplify your hair routine. This hair tool will dry and style your hair at the same time. It has 3 temperature settings and 2 speed settings to work for all hair types. So normally this is $300. Ooh! You're not going to believe this price. We got it for just $33.99. So that's saving 89%.
What?
I know.
These are all the rage everywhere on the TikTok and the Insta and the socials, and they save you time. I already have one, but I'll be buying this one as well.
Oh, it saves so much time. Drying and styling your hair in one go, it's honestly the way to go. I love this. Next up today, we've got the Conair Sonic Vibration Facial Cleansing Device.
Nice.
So this doorbuster deal includes 1 brush base and charging stand and 2 facial brushes. So Conair is a worldwide industry leader, and MorningSave is excited to offer this innovative product from a powerhouse brand at nearly 90% off. Woo! MorningSave's doorbuster deals have been wildly popular, but they want to make sure that everyone can get their hands on them. So, you guys, there's a limit of 3 per customer.
Oh my gosh.
Normally this is $80, but we've got it for just $10. So that's saving you guys 88%.
I'll be buying 3 and saving myself all the money and giving gifts and being the best friend you've ever seen.
There you go. This is honestly a great gift, and if you've got bridesmaids, your mum, your sister, whoever, it's great for anyone who loves skincare.
Especially in summer with the sweat, with a good deep cleaning, I'm in.
Exactly.
Wow.
Now, if you're a whiz in the kitchen, which I'm definitely not, but it's going to make me look like I am, we've got the Ginsu Kiso 6-piece steak knife set.
Look at that.
So this deal includes 6 steak knives available in black or purple.
Whoa.
So these are dishwasher safe. They're great for cutting fruits, vegetables, and of course, steak. And Ginsu is a leading brand name in the cutlery industry, and it's well known for their high quality, long lasting pieces.
Yeah, they're very well known.
So normally this is $25, Tori.
Oh, okay.
So we have got this 6-piece set for just $12.99. So that is saving 48%.
Everything is so well priced today. This is incredible. And if you have a dark dining room, Steph, don't you think the purple would be cool?
Tori, I love this purple, a great alternative to regular black colors. And also, black always looks so chic.
I agree with you. Nice pop. Very good price.
Now, our last product today is the Truman's Gentleman's Groomers 4-piece hair care kit. This deal includes 2 men's hairstyling control pastes and 2 moisturizing shampoos. Now, this is a fabulous Father's Day gift for the guy who has it all, because we know that Dad and Grandpa want to always look good and feel their best. And this set from Truman's Gentleman's Groomers has exactly what any guy needs for a great look. This is $88.
Oh, I was wondering. I'm like, I bet this is pricey.
We've got it for just $24.99.
Never mind.
So that's saving up to 72%.
That is a fabulous deal. And I gotta say, men's care is so, people, they care now. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And these are so snazzy.
And I like the aesthetic on that as well.
It's going to look great in your bathroom, you know? I love this.
How does it smell? Good? Take a sniff.
Really nice.
Wow.
Very refreshing.
Head on over to morningsave.com to snag all these amazing deals at the lowest prices. Or, as you know, you can scan the QR code right on screen. It will take you directly to these products right on MorningSave's website. Couldn't be easier. Thank you so much, Steph. We'll be right back.
Sunshine on a cloudy day sure sounds nice, but might not feel so great. Let's verify. Are UV rays stronger on cloudy days? We checked with several sources and found out the answer depends on some specific cloud conditions. A dark day will, of course, block out some sunshine, but our research all concludes many of those skin-damaging rays can still filter through.
Around 80% of the sun rays can penetrate through the clouds.
And some clouds could be worse than none at all. We looked at several studies showing a phenomenon, sometimes called the broken cloud effect, can actually cause the sun's light to reflect and bounce around more intensely. The University of Washington cites research showing UV rays enhanced by 25% on a partly cloudy day compared to a sunny day. If it's a cloudy day on the water, even more reason to lather up. According to the National Council on Skin Cancer Prevention, light bouncing off water and sand can effectively double UV exposure. But the reason for your cloudy day sunburn might be less meteorological and more mental. As in, experts say people often aren't thinking of applying or reapplying sunscreen when they aren't feeling bright, direct rays. Windy days can also cool the skin, and the Skin Cancer Foundation warns can make you more likely to blow off sunscreen.
You're still getting sun exposure and sun damage.
With your Verify, I'm Abby Larico.
Pool season is right around the corner, and as parents are getting their kids ready to splash in the pool, we wanted to know, are brighter colored swimsuits easier to spot if your kid goes underwater? Let's verify.
Our source is a watercolor study from Alive Solutions and Allie Gaines with Charlotte Aquatics. According to Alive Solutions, bright and contrasting colors are easier to see underwater. This is important because if your kid goes underwater for a long period of time, you'll want to easily spot them. The Alive Solutions color test shows some examples. In this series of photos, fabric colors such as bright reds, pinks, blues, and greens show up better when compared to fabrics such as light blue, light gray, black, and white. As you can see, the colors white and light blue basically disappear when underwater. Gaines says drownings are so prevalent in children under the age of 4. She confirms kids should be wearing brightly colored swimsuits.
Neon colors are much better. They're easier to spot in the water.
Gaines says while picking out the perfect swimsuit color is important for parents, it's only a secondary measure for preventing accidents in pools.
If you're not actually watching the water, if you're not actually watching your kids, it's really not going to do very good.
Gaines also suggests putting your kids in swim lessons at an early age to help get them used to being around the water.
So swim lessons are always going to be your number one way to keep your kids safe around the water, a best way to prevent drowning. Formal swim lessons actually reduce the risk of drowning by 88%.
So we can verify that yes, brighter colored swimsuits are easier to spot if your kid goes underwater. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
Welcome back to DBL. We love your comments. This is in regard to Disney adults. Lee says, I love Disneyland and World. Could easily go alone. Here. Jamie says, you're never too old to be a Disney kind of guy. And Julia says, I went to Disneyland so often as a child that I have no desire to go back.
Oh, nice life.
I find it to be the happiest place on earth.
I love it so much.
I love it so much.
I miss it. One day when I'm older, I will volunteer on one of those rides.
Oh.
What do you mean volunteer?
And me and Al will be sitting in the parking lot.
In my senior golden years, I'll be a volunteer on It's a Small World.
What will you be volunteering for?
Like that.
Here's what we're talking about today on Daily Blast Live.
Disney's live action The Little Mermaid makes a big splash at the box office. Is the plot of the movie problematic, though, for today's times? Then, a couple who took in a Ukrainian orphan finds themselves in the middle of a nightmare. Was she actually a 22-year-old con artist at the time of her adoption?
There was a moment when I woke up in the middle of the night and Natalia was standing over my bed with a knife in her hand.
Plus, actress and singer Vanessa Williams tells us all about judging Queen of the Universe while weighing in on our country's drag debate.
We've got some issues right now, letting our drag be an art form.
And Jules' rendition of the national anthem gets mixed reviews. Is changing the melody disrespectful?
Oh my gosh.
Get real.
No. Y'all, just stop.
This is a sham.
It's finally here. Drum roll.
Welcome to DBL. We are all coming back from a long Memorial Day weekend. Before we talk about our day off and all the fun we had, we do want to just say, you know, we are so grateful to all the brave men and women who lost their lives dedicated to our freedom and our country. So thank you on behalf of all of us. Okay, so let's talk about what did you do this weekend? Were you here? Were you home?
I was with the fam. I sent you guys a couple pictures. My favorite nephew, Josh, got married this
Mazel
weekend.
Josh.
It's crazy because I remember getting the phone call on a landline phone that he was born, and now he's married to the person that he loves. That's me and the kiddos, and that's at the top. That's a picture of my mom with her 3 kids. That's the first picture she's ever had with all 3 of her kids. So it was really a full circle moment for our family, for myself. I told you this is a changing month. I saw my mom get married 3 weeks ago, and my nephew get married this weekend. So I'm good. I'm playing with house money now. Maybe we got a couple, maybe college graduations and weddings to knock out with the kids, but other than that, I'm good.
That's perspective right
That's
there.
unbelievable.
Really
Congratulations.
happy. Thanks.
Congratulations, Al.
Tori, what about you?
I did a little hike with my senior dogs, and I'm a little lazy, so it was a little walk to Netherland, one of our favorite mining towns.
I like that. I like it out there.
Oh,
yeah.
Josie Rose.
Yeah, and we enjoyed it. If you have senior dogs and you live in Colorado, it's a great place to walk. That's a fishing pond for children, Jeff.
Oh.
And you can throw it back, but it's just for kids.
I've been up there before.
Oh,
it's beautiful.
really nice. So we enjoy. I did have a glass. It was lovely. We can move past that.
It's like, it's like an aquarium.
Okay, and then ice cream. We can also move past the ice cream.
Ooh, and fire, girl.
And then I went to the pool, and it was lovely. I also invited myself and crashed Erica's house, so I was also at Erica's house for part of it.
I'm so jealous. You got in on the spool.
Yeah, it was great.
So jealous.
It was so good.
Okay, speaking of pools, we went to the pool too all weekend. Our pool just opened, I think, like yours, Jeff, on Friday.
Yes.
We were talking about it. So, Sophie had her first swim meet too.
Yes.
Taken after mom.
Did we have that video that you sent us on the group thread? Please tell me.
The tooth?
Yes.
Okay, so listen, before people say anything, my dad used to remove my teeth when they were wiggly with a string and a door. And it never hurt. So Sophie's tooth was wiggly, and I said, do you want it out so the tooth fairy can come visit? She said yes, and she was focused on getting that tooth fairy to come visit.
Of course.
So we tied, here's the video, tied the tooth, slammed the door.
Oh my
out
God.
it came.
Oh my God.
Yep, and it worked, man, it works. Boom, there it went.
Oh my God.
But of course, I made sure she wanted to do it.
Yeah, of course.
I like that you have to explain now.
It's true.
You know what I mean? It's so annoying.
It is.
It's so annoying.
I don't need people writing me saying that it's child abuse.
Yes. Oh,
That's what people say?
No, but I know she's right.
She's right.
Because I prefaced it when first of all, I shared that video only with friends because I don't need comments from people who might question my judgment as a parent, not knowing the full context in the situation.
I showed my wife
comment.
that was amazing.
That was awesome.
I said that girl's got heart. She's a tough one.
She's a fighter.
Yeah.
She is a fighter. We also saw The Little Mermaid.
Oh.
So that was fun. All the mom friends, look at them. They all got dressed up. One of them, Cora, is in a tail.
Wow.
And then look at them.
Is that the movie theater or the Enterprise?
No, that's the aquarium, Al.
Did you see those seats?
It was very nice.
It was like really nice.
Yeah, that's what movie theaters look like.
Not all of them?
Yeah, they do now.
No, they don't.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
So speaking of The Little Mermaid, you guys, speaking of The Little Mermaid, so one thing that many Americans did this weekend, maybe some of our viewers here, here. They went and saw, just like us, Disney's live-action remake of The Little Mermaid. The film won the box office, taking in $121 million in its opening weekend alone. But reviews of the film are mixed, with some critics slamming it for lacking creativity and fun. Meantime, some people are calling out the film for its message to young girls, including British singer Paloma Faith. She posted this to Instagram saying, quote, "I don't want my kids to think it's okay to give up your entire voice and your powers to love a man. Not what I want to be teaching the next generation of women at all." So what do we think of the plot of The Little Mermaid? Do you think it's problematic? What would you say, Erica?
I would say that we knew what this movie was. I mean, it wasn't like a new script. And although there were changes, clearly, in order to make it less problematic or more today's standards, it's also an animated live-action film. But you actually saw it. So what were your thoughts?
I feel like I saw a different movie than her. Because,
what were your thoughts?
Can I give away some things? Can I say spoiler alert?
I feel like it's been 20, 30 years.
We know.
No, there's changes, Erica. So Ariel is the one that, we all know that she saved Eric in the beginning. She also saves him in the end. She's the one that defeats Ursula. Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah, not Eric like in the original.
Oh.
And she also saves her dad, King Triton. So for me, not only did she, and before she even saw Eric up on that boat, if you remember, not only in the original, but it's more introduced here, she always had an infatuation with humans. Eric was like, you know, the straw that broke the camel's back, where she's like, I need to do this. She made up her decision. This is what she wanted to do. So I saw that as being brave, going against her father, who's the king, saying, this is what I want. And there's one line at the very end that got me, which is a new line where after she saved her dad, who was literally dying after Ursula, again, spoiler alert, hit him with the Triton. He looked at her, and she had already gotten her voice back, which she got back, by the way, because she's the one that defeated Ursula. She got her own voice back. But she looked at her father, and he turned her fin back into legs. And she had agency over her own body, and she looked at her dad, and she said, thank you for hearing me. He goes, you shouldn't have had to have lost your voice in order for me to hear you. Now, if that's not a feminist, beautiful undertone, I don't know what is. I think Halle Bailey did an amazing job, and she knocked it out of the park. Anyways.
Can I ask you one question very quickly about it? That sounds fantastic, and I can't wait to go. I did play Scuttle in a performance.
You did? Scuttle's amazing.
Jingle Hopper.
I will pay $10,000 for that video.
Excellent. I will get it to you. I will get it to you.
Yes.
Quick question. You know how the animation is fun and colorful? Is the live actions too natural? I don't want you know what I mean? I don't want it too under the sea. I still want it to be like under the sea.
It's beautiful.
Okay, okay.
The colors are beautiful.
Good.
And I'm a huge original Little Mermaid fan. This one surpasses it.
Oh, wow.
Surpasses the expectations. It's much more strong. Even before you kiss the girl, there's this line in there about it being like Ariel's choice. Like, in my opinion, it wasn't too woke. It empowered young girls to like have agency over their bodies, to be heroes. Sophie looked at me and said, Mom, she's a hero, when she saved her own father.
Oh, my word.
And there's another part in it, because you mentioned Scuttle. Sorry, this is just amazing.
I'm amazed by this.
So Scuttle's played by Awkwafina, and it was so cool because Lin-Manuel Miranda is the one that did the soundtrack, just like in Encanto. There's a song I predict is going to be all over, just like We Don't Talk About Bruno. This one is called Scuttlebutt. And I guess a scuttlebutt is a gossip back in the ship days. So there's a whole song called I'm a scuttlebutt, scuttlebutt. And one of my friends who likes to like stay with the Joneses in the neighborhood turned to me and goes, oh no, am I the scuttlebutt?
She's all, yeah.
Okay, clearly I like the movie. Sorry. Anybody want to add anything to this?
I think we're done.
Yeah.
After your
I liked it.
paper of The Little Mermaid.
I thought it was good.
Wait, there is another.
I think it's
Little
time for a
Mermaid.
commercial.
No, there's another controversy, Jeff. There always is.
I know about
Over the makeup artist who was responsible for Melissa McCarthy's transformation, who knocked it out of the park also to become Ursula. Now, the original Ursula's villainous look was based on a drag queen icon named Divine, but people took issue with the fact that the makeup artist who did the look is not queer, nor had he done drag makeup before. The makeup artist is responding, Peter Smith King, saying, quote, why can't I do as good as a job as a queer makeup artist. So what do we think of this? What do you think, Tori?
Okay, first of all, he can. Absolutely. That's fine with me. But I will have to say, the makeup in the animation is so much more interesting than what I thought Ursula's makeup was. Now, I want to talk to Dre, of course, our makeup artist, and we'll go to the break and talk to him about it. The green, the weird eyebrows just seem flat and boring. If you watch the Ursula animated, it's got sparkles. It's blue. It's like aqua. It's like underwater. And I wish they had played with some of that. Vanessa Williams has, for instance, has a great sparkle line at Sephora, and incorporated some of Divine into that because she's well known to have been based on Divine, and Divine's Divine.
Yeah, very divine. Yeah, but Melissa McCarthy did great, Tori. You'd be very proud of her.
Oh,
Unbelievable. Michael Dean said that was his favorite character.
Really?
Okay, enough about the Little Mermaid. Coming up on DBL, our interview with actress and singer Vanessa Williams. She's telling us all about being a judge on the drag competition Queen of the Universe, and Jules' rendition of the national anthem gets mixed reviews. Is changing the melody disrespectful?
Our viewers are talking about DBL.
Yes!
I like that.
Leaves me speechless and like blushing.
Thank you, thank you.
That's emotional.
Do I want to sit there and watch them? Yes, I do.
So we're trying to get Dre. Dre's also worked in drag and is a fantastic creative director and makeup artist. So I wanted to get his take on Ursula.
Oh, go for it.
Are you listening to water? What's going on?
My wife sent me a video of the kids.
I was like, is he under the sea? So is okay, good. Is kiss the girl? Because in the movie, it's very much like don't have consent, just kiss the girl. How did they? No, but it's very much like don't worry about it, just go for it.
Yeah. So the way they did it differently, is they rephrased leading up to it. You have to kiss Prince Eric. So you like almost like she would, you could tell that that's all she wanted. So she has, but they don't change the lyrics in the song. When the song comes, it's the original song, but it's already been built up. And then there's a point too where Sebastian points out that when they even bring up the kiss, she kind of goes into a spell of a fog. So they kind of, I think, have that layer on top too, where she's not even aware. But then they never kiss anyways because they fall.
They don't kiss?
Right. They fall. That's the whole point. Oh, kiss though. Oh. Remember, they go to.
What?
They want you to talk about Ursula. I wanted to give you the opportunity because I thought it was a little boring. Not that he had to be queer, but I thought the makeup was boring. It should have been more like Divine.
Oh no, it was flat and terrible.
That's what I said.
No, you could see the glue on the brows. They tried to glue back her brows.
And the green
that was
was
horrible
boring.
back. There was no symmetry in her actual complexion. Her brows were like this. There wasn't a roundness to the brows, unfortunately, which is like the whole Divine character. What's being said a lot in the film world right now is that Melissa McCarthy actually had the directive to control the narrative of how that was being portrayed. But the bottom line is she looked like Auntie's 80s Ursula and not like 2023 Ursula?
Totally, and with all that makeup, I said Vanessa Williams.
Absolutely.
You could have done really cool.
Welcome back. The Indianapolis 500 was this weekend, and Jules sang the national anthem, but she had her own take on the Star-Spangled Banner that left a lot of folks upset. Let's watch together, and you can decide what you think. Take a look.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
So a lot of people online were quick to criticize. One person wrote, "For the love of God, just sing the national anthem as it's meant to be sung. Don't put your own spin on it, sacrilegious." And another person said, "Jewel butchered the national anthem. People were trying to sing along but couldn't because of the way she sang it." What do you think, Jeff?
I think I had fun this weekend. I was with my family and I drank and was at the pool. I never once went to a movie and said, "You took away a little girl's freedom for the Little Mermaid." I never listened to the national anthem and got online and told everybody my opinions about it. It's insane where we're at. I thought that was beautiful, by the way.
Me too.
I don't think
I
it's
thought it was
sacrilegious. I don't think it's disrespectful to the national anthem. And I usually stick up for things like that. It's Jules' take as an artist to put her own spin on what she thinks the national anthem should sound like. And I like a little bit of twist. I don't like the same old thing. I thought that was beautiful.
Absolutely.
I didn't see what the problem was, and I know people were upset because they couldn't sing along, but nobody was asking them to sing. They asked Jewel to sing, and Jewel sang, and I thought it was beautiful. And it wasn't like a creation where it's so far removed from the original that you're like stuck on the performance. She was hitting all the notes.
She sounded
It was very
hauntingly
melodic. I want to listen to the whole thing.
Yeah, imagine you're Francis Scott Key, who wrote it. It's the dawn's early light. It's cold. You have bombs bursting in air, and you see the wave of the American flag, and you write a poem. Oh, 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 say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail, right? She sung it like it was in the morning, like a poem, like it was just starting, and it's probably the way he wrote it.
I think we want you to do the national anthem.
Just like it's a beautiful.
Say, can you see?
It was never like, oh, say, can you see? It was always a quiet poem that was so beautifully worded that it became the national anthem.
Honestly, if we're joking around, but you just gave your own take on the national anthem, and if somebody hired Tori to do the national anthem, that's how you would do it. You would talk us through it, and you would explain.
Or Sam to break down the Little Mermaid.
You paint a picture. There's passion behind what you're saying, and you know, my girl works for the Rockies, so I hear a lot of national anthems. I hear a lot of America the Beautiful.
Are there a bunch of different renditions?
Sometimes it's just a dude playing the sax, or an organ, like it was on Saturday.
Jimi Hendrix. Remember the famous electric guitar one?
He destroyed the country when he did that. It was one of the most popular renditions. So I think we need to understand that this is art, and let's not lose sight of the fact that this song is meant to mean something. We're not talking just about musical taste here at this point. So I think, again, like you said, Jeff, just some people need to, let's take a weekend, guys. It's been a rough couple of years. Let's just take a weekend. We'll start back on Tuesday.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well said. We're all in agreement. That's rare. I love it. Coming up on DBL, we're talking with the fabulous Vanessa Williams, all about judging the drag singing contest Queen of the Universe.
There is nothing I like better than finding a great deal on travel. And it turns out, I'm not alone. Verify viewer Catherine emailed us to ask, is there a certain day of the week that's cheapest to buy a plane ticket? So Catherine, let's verify. Our sources are Scott's Cheap Flights, a study by cheapair.com, and Brett Snyder, president of Cranky Concierge Travel Assistance and a former airline pricing analyst. Some studies suggest Tuesday or Saturdays are the cheapest days to buy tickets, but all of our sources say they usually rely on flawed or outdated data. For example, some articles suggest that weekends are the cheapest days to buy. Snyder points out that's based on data that tracks the average amount spent on a ticket each day of the week. Families tend to buy their tickets on weekends and usually purchase less expensive tickets. Meanwhile, business travelers tend to buy their tickets during the week, and many are less price sensitive.
A lot of the business travel, premium cabin or even last minute or whatever it might be, those tend to be higher fares.
The end result is a study that has skewed data. Similar articles suggest Tuesdays offer the best deals, but our sources say that's also not the case. Scott's Cheap Flights explains on its site that this idea is a holdover from the 1990s when airlines used to upload special e-fares on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. These days, Snyder says airlines use sophisticated algorithms to consistently adjust fares based on demand, regardless of what day of the week it is.
This hasn't existed for years. I couldn't tell you the last time when those actually were out there in the market.
So we can verify, no, there is not a certain day of the week that's cheapest to buy a plane ticket. So when should you book? Cheapair.com found domestic tickets are generally cheapest 3 to 15 weeks before departure. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Let the drag extravaganza begin!
UKRANIAN, the Queen of the Universe. The world's first ever vocal drag competition is bigger than ever. It's an all-new season of Queen of the Universe.
Time to spice up the competition. Are you ready for your life to change?
Welcome back to DBL. That was a clip from season 2 of Queen of the Universe. And earlier we spoke with one of its judges, the multi-talented Vanessa Williams. Take a look. Oh my goodness, she is a Tony, Grammy, and Emmy nominated actress and singer. Please welcome to DBL, Vanessa Williams.
Yes. Wow.
Yes.
Vanessa, let's jump right in. You look beautiful. I have to point that out. I'm a little nervous.
Thank you.
Let's talk about Queen of the Universe. Not you, the show. The costumes, makeup, and dancing are over the top. So what is the craziest thing to happen backstage so far?
So Queen of the Universe, this is season 2 on Paramount Plus, and it is a drag queen singing competition that is live. So there is no lip syncing. This is all live singing. The drag is out of this world. There are some costumes and some bodies and some faces that are incredible. And there's also some heartwarming moments. There's a couple of moments where you'll see family members get a chance to interact with the queens that are in competition. And it shows the humanity and the acceptance and the support that is behind the scenes for this spectacular moment. It's great to be a judge. I get a chance to sit back and watch all the festivities.
Yes, we live for fabulous queens, yourself included. Now, but this is a global show. But are other countries more accepting of drag than America? And where does our country rank in the world of acceptance when it comes to drag?
Good question.
Good question. There are some that are more severe that, especially we've heard on our, when we did season 1, there was a queen from India, and she said, it is a danger in my country to do what I love to do. So that was a heartbreaking story. And then there's also ones that are celebrated. We've got one queen from Australia, and it is an art form that has been celebrated for years, and it is wonderful. So in terms of where we are as a country, yeah, we've got some issues right now. Letting our drag be an art form. It is an art form. It is not predatory. These are queens that have made a life and career out of transformation and bringing joy.
I love that you said that, because I was going to follow up and ask why America needs this type of show right now. And I think you absolutely said it all, because it's also about the safety of our performers and how much we, some of us, everyone on this panel, wants to protect that. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And it's showbiz. They're singing their hearts out. They're wearing amazing clothing, doing incredible choreography with dancers around them, and it's for production value. We're putting on a show so the whole family can enjoy it.
All right, well, let's stay on the track of showbiz. Now, we read that there's a limited series about your Miss America scandal that's possibly in the works. First of all, is that true? And what is the biggest misconception about your story?
Well, the idea is true. We are getting the team together. So there's, you know, I don't have a release date, but it is in motion. Probably the biggest misconception, I think, is that, you know, I was a musical theater major before I became famous. And what beauty queen labels tend to do is negate any kind of talent you have or intellect. So it took me longer to actually show who I was when people would accept me than normally if I had just graduated from university, went to graduate school, went to Broadway. There would have been none of the skepticism that I had to barrel through, which took a long, long time.
That is powerful.
I think you showed them.
I think so too. Yes.
Well done.
DBL Nation, season 2 of Queen of the Universe premieres June 2nd on Paramount Plus. Vanessa, thank you so much for chatting with us today. Congratulations on everything. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Sunshine on a cloudy day sure sounds nice, but might not feel so great. Let's verify. Are UV rays stronger on cloudy days? We checked with several sources and found out the answer depends on some specific cloud conditions. A dark day will, of course, block out some sunshine, but our research all concludes many of those skin-damaging rays can still filter through.
Around 80% of the sun rays can penetrate through the clouds.
And some clouds could be worse than none at all. We looked at several studies showing a phenomenon, sometimes called the broken cloud effect, can actually cause the sun's light to reflect and bounce around more intensely. The University of Washington cites research showing UV rays enhanced by 25% on a partly cloudy day compared to a sunny day. If it's a cloudy day on the water, even more reason to lather up. According to the National Council on Skin Cancer Prevention, light bouncing off water and sand can effectively double UV exposure. But the reason for your cloudy day sunburn might be less meteorological and more mental. As in, experts say people often aren't thinking of applying or reapplying sunscreen when they aren't feeling bright, direct rays. Windy days can also cool the skin, and the Skin Cancer Foundation warns can make you more likely to blow off sunscreen.
You're still getting sun exposure and sun damage.
With your Verify, I'm Abby Larico.
Pool season is right around the corner, and as parents are getting their kids ready to splash in the pool, we wanted to know, are brighter colored swimsuits easier to spot if your kid goes underwater? Let's verify.
Our source is a watercolor study from Alive Solutions and Allie Gaines with Charlotte Aquatics. According to Alive Solutions, bright and contrasting colors are easier to see underwater. This is important because if your kid goes underwater for a long period of time, you'll want to easily spot them. The Alive Solutions color test shows some examples. In this series of photos, fabric colors such as bright reds, pinks, blues, and greens show up better when compared to fabrics such as light blue, light gray, black, and white. As you can see, the colors white and light blue basically disappear when underwater. Gaines says drownings are so prevalent in children under the age of 4. She confirms kids should be wearing brightly colored swimsuits.
Neon colors are much better. They're easier to spot in the water.
Gaines says while picking out the perfect swimsuit color is important for parents, it's only a secondary measure for preventing accidents in pools.
If you're not actually watching the water, if you're not actually watching your kids, it's really not going to do very good.
Gaines also suggests putting your kids in swim lessons at an early age to help get them used to being around the water.
So swim lessons are always going to be your number one way to keep your kids safe around the water, best way to prevent drowning. Formal swim lessons actually reduce the risk of drowning by 88%.
So we can verify that yes, brighter colored swimsuits are easier to spot if your kid goes underwater. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
We love sharing your comments. In regard to Jewel and the national anthem, Keith says Jewel put passion into the feeling of the song. She's a talented musician who I respect and has every right to include her take. And Myra says it still had the basic melody. What's the problem? It was nice. Exactly.
Shout out Jewel.
If you're leaving us, you can watch the second half of the show online. Watch on YouTube, dailyblastlive.com, or our mobile app. But if you get the second half of the show where you are, here's what's ahead. A couple who took in an orphan from Ukraine find themselves in the middle of a nightmare. Was she actually a 22-year-old con artist at the time of her adoption? And Succession fans are talking about the series finale, which has us thinking, what are the best finales of all time?
Walk into your favorite store and you'll see a wall of choices to protect your skin from the sun. A Verify viewer texted us asking about the difference between spray-on and lotion sunscreens. So let's verify. Are spray-on sunscreens as effective as lotions? Our sources are Harvard Health and 2 board-certified dermatologists to explain it's all about how you apply sunscreen.
I think it's easier with a lotion to make sure that you're getting full coverage. With a spray, you may not be as careful. So that is a consideration with the spray.
Dr. Rajani Kanta also says despite the advertising, you can't simply spray and go.
I recommend that you spray and then you make sure that you rub it in so that you're not missing any of those, you're not missing any spots.
Harvard Health found when spraying, most people apply just a quarter of what they need. Researchers recommend spraying each area for up to 6 seconds.
You know that you have enough when your skin glistens. If it's not glistening, you gotta put more.
But Dr. Danilo Del Campo says that doesn't mean sprays, when used properly, are any less effective than lotions.
Between a lotion that has SPF 30 and a spray that's SPF 30, they are equivalent. However, the difference is how do we apply it and the method that we apply it.
So we can verify, yes, spray-on sunscreens are as effective as lotions. However, they may be more difficult to use correctly than lotions. The doctors also say parents may want to use lotions for their children because it's harder to spray a good coating when kids are squirming around. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
Oh my gosh.
Get real.
No. Y'all, just stop.
This is a sham.
It's finally here. Drum roll. Welcome to DBL. Okay, so let's get right into something that you will not believe. Of all the strange adoption stories out there, very few are as unbelievable as the case of Natalia Grace. Watch.
You may remember the unusual story of Natalia Grace, a Ukrainian orphan with severe dwarfism adopted by the Barnett family in Indiana, then allegedly abandoned years later.
Then out of nowhere, we got a phone call from an adoption agency in Florida. They had reached out to us and they said, hey, we've got the perfect child for you. Here's all we're gonna give you. Here's 2 pictures. Here's a Ukrainian language birth certificate. And here is 1 doctor visit from 2 years before. You have 24 hours to tell us whether or not you want to adopt her. We went and signed paperwork, and the next thing you know, Natalia was ours.
They began to suspect things were not what they seemed with Natalia.
Now we're very concerned and very worried. Is Natalia 6? Is she older? We would find knives under her bed. There was a moment when I woke up in the middle of the night and Natalia was standing over my bed with a knife in her hand. She began to attempt to harm my sons in a very serious manner.
I'm going to kill you, you're gonna die.
She was re-aged as a 22-year-old and given an apartment. She was then taken in by another family nearby a year later.
Prosecutors allege that in July of 2013, the Barnetts left their daughter in the Lafayette apartment, then moved to Canada.
For years, her story was scrutinized.
A 6 or 7-year-old child living in an apartment alone for a year? That's just not believable to me. Are you a 33-year-old scam artist?
No.
But what if that is not the full story?
A woman who claims to be Natalia Barnett's biological birth mother has come forward to say that she is a child.
What if this adult, pretending to be a child, was actually a child the entire time? Will we ever learn the truth of what happened? Only time will tell.
Wow, joining us now to talk all about the curious case of Natalia Grace, please welcome to the show veteran legal expert Beth Karras.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So let's just go to the start. How did Natalia come into the Barnett family's lives?
She had been adopted by a family in New Hampshire about 2 years earlier in 2008 when she was supposedly 4 years old and unloaded. They didn't want her after about a year, it appears. They were trying to pass her off, almost sell her to another little family, little people family a couple times. And when that was unsuccessful, they dropped her off at an adoption agency in Florida. Now, they were from New Hampshire. And that's when the Barnetts got the call that they had 24 hours to come and get this little girl, or else she was going to be turned over to foster care. And that was in 2010, so they thought they were adopting a 6-year-old.
So when did the Barnett family begin to suspect that maybe she was much older?
Almost immediately. There were signs almost immediately when Christine, the mother, gave her a bath. They were still in Florida, hadn't gotten back to Indiana yet. And she noticed that Natalia was very mature sexually. She had pubic hair. And they thought, oh, she's 6 years old, so what's going on here? Were they off by a few years or more than a few years in her age?
Now, the answer to Natalia's age is still, I can't believe this, still a mystery. In actuality, how old was Natalia while this was going on?
Well, we don't know for sure.
Right.
If you believe her Ukrainian birth certificate, she was actually 8 years old when she was re-aged to 22 and left on her own in an apartment that was not modified for someone with a disability.
Oh
She's
my
a little
gosh.
person. This
Oh
was
my
a tall counters and bathtub and sinks, and wasn't modified for her. But yet she was 8 years old. But 8-year-olds can live on their own.
Wow. All right, follow up to that. Do you feel like the stories of her plotting to kill the family, which we all know as the narrative, some people are saying that was made up. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there may be some truth to it, but you have to consider that it's really just coming from the Barnetts, right? There's no corroboration of that. And perhaps they're making it worse than it was. But you have to consider also that Natalia may have been acting out. If she was a child, we don't know what those first years of her life were like. Was she sexually abused? If she didn't know boundaries, was she, I don't know, just kind of engaging in some sort of self-protection, some mechanism that was triggered because of her past.
Right, that's where my mind went. But I have to ask you this, because I know you've uncovered everything in this story. If the Barnetts were making this up, what do you believe? Do you believe that there was some sort of motive to distance themselves from her? What do you think that is?
Well, once their son Jacob got a full scholarship to Canada, I mean, they really did have a hard time with Natalia, whether it was their fault or hers or a combination. That is the truth. And they wanted to unload her. She was theirs legally, but I think they wanted to get to Canada and get Jacob educated, bring their sons with them. And they had her re-aged, and it was a way to just kind of get rid of her. So that could be one motive, because they claim they tried to use other resources. They tried to get psychological help for her and police. And I mean, they said, no, she's your problem, basically. So like, okay, we're going to get rid of our problem. We're going to do it legally.
I have to ask, does anybody know where she is now?
Yes, she's in Indiana. She was taken in by another family, and she is older, well-adjusted. She's either 19, turning 20 later this year, or 34, depending on what you believe. Wow. And she's doing quite well.
Wow, Beth, this case is absolutely crazy. Thank you for sharing your expert analysis. DBL Nation, the curious case of Natalia Grace continues tonight on ID. Thank you so much, Beth. We appreciate you. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Our viewers are talking about DBL. Yes!
I like that.
Leaves me speechless. I'm like blushing. Thank you, thank you.
That's emotional.
Do I want to sit there and watch them? Yes, I do.
Okay. Hey guys, there's a movie Orphan that came out like recently, am I right? That has like a very similar plot. That movie was based on this story, but the players in this story actually didn't even know about Orphan when we did, our producers did an interview. He had to tell them about that movie. So, okay. It was based on a similar story, so we don't know. Yeah, similar story, so it's not connected in any way to that. Yeah, I guess it's not connected. I mean, I was saying it's not connected.
But it is a crazy, crazy story.
Yeah.
I remember that Dr. Phil clip because we were on, I don't know how many years ago, but we were doing this show at the time.
And we had to react to that.
Yeah, we did it on the show, and I remember that. And now the follow-up, and it's still nobody knows the truth. Can you tell by someone's, like a dentist, to get their age or blood test? There's got to be something you could, because they do it with dead bodies that they exhume, and they're like, oh, this person was between the age of this, just on their, or maybe they do a lot of like bone structure, so maybe being a little person, the bone structure is not the same.
Okay, because I was like, they absolutely do bone length. Not only that is interesting, the teeth seem like the best bet.
Right.
You absolutely can see if a child's teeth hasn't come in yet, but I wonder if they can't get permission to look at her dental records. Perhaps there's some privacy. Well, that's her right. I mean, she has to have probable cause to be.
Oh, maybe she doesn't want
Right,
them
you know what I'm
known?
saying? And if that case is,
Well,
if
if you were trying to prove that you're right, why wouldn't you prove?
Well, she pulled out the birth certificate, and the original mom came out to say, but I feel like that can also be faked.
Tori.
Thank you.
Does anybody remember on Oprah when there was that controversy about that mom that sent her Russian orphan back to Russia? Do you guys remember that? You remember that?
Yeah, was she?
Yeah, she like sent her.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, she said the kid was violent.
Yeah.
And was she was lied to. They were on Oprah.
Yeah. Okay.
Welcome back to DBL. The hit show Succession came to an end on Sunday, and we finally learned the fate of the Roy children. Spoiler alert for anyone who has not seen the finale. Cover your ears. In a twist, Tom Logan, Roy's son-in-law, swooped in and became the American CEO of the family business, which ended up being sold. Many fans were pleased with the finale, even though none of Logan's 3 children came out on top. But that got us thinking about some other season finales that left fans divided. Some fans hated when Dexter wrapped things up by having the lead character retreat to a lumberyard in Oregon. The ending of The Sopranos is still debated after the audience finds Tony and his family sharing onion rings at a diner, and then the scene just cuts to black. But Game of Thrones might take the cake for the most polarizing series finale of all. What do we think is the worst and the best? Tori, do you have like one show that you felt like failed you?
Lost. I was in forums, I told them I was in clubs. We would discuss and we would evaluate, and we took it seriously. And they promised us, Damon Lindelof said, it's not that they're dead. They're not in purgatory. And what happened? They were dead. They were in purgatory. And it really was like, I invested all this stupid time. But the other one that I love, first of all, I have to give a shout out to MASH, because MASH had a wonderful ending that was a lot of people have already brought up. But Breaking Bad, I thought, had a really good ending, and it ended at the right time.
Yeah, I think Lost was a tough one too, because there were so many episodes of it.
Dude, I was like 7 seasons, 10, whatever.
It was a lot. It was
Too
a lot.
much.
It was a lot of Lost.
Any shows you were disappointed with?
It wasn't like the end of the world. I wonder if anybody else feels like this. The Wire. In a lot of ways, it really helped explain like what like City Hall does, and like how the mayor is wrapped in with the police chief and the city. I didn't understand any of that, and it really illuminated like a lot of like what city issues are. But at the end, the last season, it was like based around the newspaper and a weird story, and especially coming off the heels of season 4, I think 2 and 4 were the best seasons. It was just it didn't hold up. It wasn't like it ruined the season for me, but it was just like you could have done it. I think wrap it up at 4. Last season's is better.
Erica, did you get disappointed by any specific series? Or Jeff? I know.
Well, I mean, we all wanted to know who shot JR, but I mean, other than that.
Yeah, bring it back.
Bring it back.
That was a good one.
Oh, it's
J.R.
true.
Ewing.
Of course.
You
Big
watched
Mama
Dallas?
and I were very, that was a big thing.
Okay,
It was
Big
huge.
Mama, that was your bonding time.
That was back when there was one TV in the house and you just watched what everybody watched. So I get it. Yes.
You were watching like Young and the Restless with your grandma, right?
Me and my grandma, we watch Young and the Restless during the day. At night on Fridays, we watch Falcon Crest, Empty Nest, Amen,
I loved Empty Nest.
227.
Amen and
It was like
227.
no one had this like 89 channels. It was like there's one TV, and I guess Gem and the Holograms.
You're welcome.
I'd be watching that because my sister's watching it, so I still know the theme song.
We still don't give enough credit to the Golden Girls for making it okay to sit down after 8 o'clock and eat cheesecake.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That changed my whole life. Having that cheesecake, watching television.
Yeah, I was disappointed in Game of Thrones that final season because I was such a big fan. Yeah. So the way that ended, hopefully they fill those shoes. Snow is coming out soon, so it's follows Jon Snow. Huh?
Did you say Snow's coming out soon?
Did I?
I thought so.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
I didn't hear that. I think
I'm surprised you didn't get mad at me about 1899.
Oh, that show sucked. I don't even know if I can say that, but it's horrible. And
You loved it the first 5 episodes.
After that, they had a child, right?
You're
the
right.
last 5 episodes.
You're right.
Okay.
I'm with Jeff there. I'm with Jeff.
All right.
Okay, more stars came out to support Taylor Swift's Eras Tour over the weekend. Molly Ringwald caught the show at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey on Sunday with Hamilton star Lin-Manuel Miranda. Paul Rudd was also there and waved to a very excited fan. And check out Aaron Rodgers getting into the groove with actors Miles Teller and Bradley Cooper. Aaron was also spotted at another show, dancing along to Shake It Off by himself. Who knew? Such big Taylor Swift fans. What's the
No, I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers, and it's like starting to answer a question I've had since I turned 40. Can you go to a concert or a club by yourself and just dance? Because I don't want to go to a club and like hit on people, but I want to go like I used to go to hip hop concerts pre-COVID by myself. But then are you the weird guy that's like, oh, look at Al Jackson in the corner dancing by himself?
No.
I don't know. Is that weird? Because I mean, it's not a great look. It's not great, but is it okay?
It seems okay to me.
I'm not getting arousing.
No, I think you're all right.
Like we
I
support
think it's
your
okay.
decision. Would you ever do that, Erica?
Sure.
You go to a concert by yourself?
Yeah, I guess I could.
That's a no.
I mean, I've gone to concerts where I was like working, so I wasn't there.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's being
I get it. I'm with
No,
you.
Taylor Swift wasn't the only singer bringing out the stars. Beyonce rolled out the red carpet for some of her famous friends while making a stop in Paris for her Renaissance tour. Megan Thee Stallion was seen dancing at her show with Jay-Z. Selena Gomez waved to fans as she arrived in this sleek black trench coat. And check out Jay-Z, Chris Rock, and Natalie Portman. Oh, yeah. But the real star of the show, you guys, was Beyonce's 11-year-old daughter, Blue Ivy, who joined her on stage for 2 songs, My Power and Black Parade. What did everybody get to see Blue Ivy perform? You're shaking your head.
Yeah, and what I loved about her, she's, I don't know, if I was trying to be on, I'd be like, ugh! I'd give it my all, and she was like, whatever. It was so cool. She's just the coolest human on earth. Because she came from the 2 coolest people. What are you gonna do? There's no uncoolness in her.
Do you think that she has pressure being Jay-Z and Beyonce's daughter, or do you think she's accepted?
No. I don't know. Blue Ivy seems like she's been here before, so she seems very unfazed.
Old soul.
And I'm just sitting there like, when I was 10, my mom used to take me to work, and I would have to sit in a college classroom for the entire day.
It's a little different.
Very different. Very different.
She was good though, wasn't she?
Yeah, that was like that was a different time on the planet when you go work with your parents and just like there would be like a room that no one used with boxes and
highlighters.
Here's some crayons. Yeah, here's some crayons. Room and it smelled like 80s office supplies.
Totally.
Like, I don't want to be here.
Why am I by the copier?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So John Stamos recently confessed to being a fan of Disneyland while on Keke Palmer's podcast. He said he was feeling a little embarrassed over loving the theme park so much as an adult. Watch.
6-7 years ago, I was like, man, I got to shed this Disney thing because I don't know if it's hurting my acting career, but who's going to take me serious with the Mickey Mouse stuff? I got to sort of distance myself from it. And then I had dinner with Ryan Gosling one night with a bunch of people, and he's like, you're a Disney fan? And I go, yeah. He goes, I'm obsessed. I'm a Disney adult. I go there by myself. I wear headphones. I listen. I go on rides. I have a mixtape. I go, yeah, me too. I'm a Disney guy too. Ryan Gosling could be.
Why did you make some grunts over there?
I don't know. I think I feel the hostility, Sam, because I know how defensive you are about Disney. But you know, I was thinking, how can I relate to the story? And it's like, I like to go to Target in the mall by myself. I like to go to the mall and just walk around and just look at stuff. I like the way the different shops smell. I sound like a creep right now.
You sound so weird.
I do, but I like the
different
food
shops and
smell. He goes, I like how the shop
past,
smell.
like the candle store, and then you get to the food court. It's like it's a whole visual and auditory and smelling experience.
Would you rather go to Taylor Swift by yourself or Disneyland by yourself?
Ooh. Oh my goodness. Oh,
wow, a stunner? A stunner?
Could I sit in the parking lot of either one?
Oh my God, Al!
What do you mean?
You can't just sit in the car all the time.
Sit in the car. I would sit in the car all day right now.
I know you would.
Instead of going to Disneyland, you would sit your butt in the car.
Yes, with the AC.
Are you kidding me right now?
I wouldn't go in by myself.
Disneyland.
As soon as you walk in, you're on a list.
Okay.
Like, oh, there's a weird guy walking around in here.
If you're sitting outside watching and waiting as people are coming and going, then you're on a list, okay?
We'll be right back. You're in trouble. You're in big trouble.
There is nothing I like better than finding a great deal on travel. And it turns out I'm not alone. Verify viewer Catherine emailed us to ask, is there a certain day of the week that's cheapest to buy a plane ticket? So Catherine, let's verify. Our sources are Scott's Cheap Flights, a study by cheapair.com, and Brett Snyder, president of Cranky Concierge Travel Assistance and a former airline pricing analyst. Some studies suggest Tuesday or Saturdays are the cheapest days to buy tickets, but all of our sources say they usually rely on flawed or outdated data. For example, some articles suggest that weekends are the cheapest days to buy. Snyder points out that's based on data that tracks the average amount spent on a ticket each day of the week. Families tend to buy their tickets on weekends and usually purchase less expensive tickets. Meanwhile, business travelers tend to buy their tickets during the week, and many are less price sensitive.
A lot of the business travel, premium cabin or even last minute or whatever it might be, those tend to be higher fares.
The end result is a study that has skewed data. Similar articles suggest Tuesdays offer the best deals, but our sources say that's also not the case. Scott's Cheap Flights explains on its site that this idea is a holdover from the 1990s when airlines used to upload special e-fares on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. These days, Snyder says airlines use sophisticated algorithms to consistently adjust fares based on demand, regardless of what day of the week it is.
This hasn't existed for years. I couldn't tell you the last time when those actually were out there in the market.
So we can verify, no, there is not a certain day of the week that's cheapest to buy a plane ticket. So when should you book? Cheapair.com found domestic tickets are generally cheapest 3 to 15 weeks before departure. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Welcome back. We've got some great products from our friends at MorningSave. Check them out.
Steph, what do you have for us today?
Hi Tori, hey DBL Nation. I am so excited to show off the deals today. As ever, they're fabulous. Get ready to shop because you're going to fall in love with this. First up today, we've got the Adagio Air Straightening Brush. So this deal includes one straightening brush that will simplify your hair routine. This hair tool will dry and style your hair at the same time. It has 3 temperature settings and 2 speed settings to work for all hair types. So normally this is $300. Ooh. You're not going to believe this price. We got it for just $33.99. So that's saving 89%.
What?
I know.
These are all the rage everywhere on the TikTok and the Insta and the socials, and they save you time. I already have one, but I'll be buying this one as well.
Oh, it saves so much time. Drying and styling your hair in one go, it's honestly the way to go. I love this. Next up today, we've got the Conair Sonic Vibration Facial Cleansing Device.
Nice.
So this doorbuster deal includes 1 brush base and charging stand and 2 facial brushes. So Conair is a worldwide industry leader, and MorningSave is excited to offer this innovative product from a powerhouse brand at nearly 90% off. Woo! MorningSave's doorbuster deals have been wildly popular, but they want to make sure that everyone can get their hands on them. So, you guys, there's a limit of 3 per customer. Oh
my gosh.
Normally this is $80, but we've got it for just $10. So that's saving you guys 88%.
I'll be buying 3 and saving myself all the money and giving gifts and being the best friend you've ever seen.
There you go. This is honestly a great gift, and if you've got bridesmaids, your mum, your sister, whoever, it's great for anyone who loves skincare.
Especially in summer with the sweat, with a good deep cleaning, I'm in.
Exactly.
Wow.
Now, if you're a whiz in the kitchen, which I'm definitely not, but it's going to make me look like I am, we've got the Ginsu Kiso 6-piece steak knife set.
Look at that.
So this deal includes 6 steak knives available in black or purple.
Whoa.
So these are dishwasher safe. They're great for cutting fruits, vegetables, and of course, steak. And Ginsu is a leading brand name in the cutlery industry, and it's well known for their high quality, long lasting pieces.
Yeah, they're very well known.
So normally this is $25, Tori.
Oh, okay.
So we have got this 6-piece set for just $12.99. So that is saving 48%.
Everything is so well priced today. This is incredible. And if you have a dark dining room, Steph, don't you think the purple would be cool?
Tori, I love this purple, a great alternative to regular black colors. And also black always looks so chic.
I agree with you. Nice pop. Very good price.
Now, our last product today is the Truman's Gentleman's Groomers 4-piece hair care kit. This deal includes 2 men's hair styling control pastes and 2 moisturizing shampoos. Now, this is a fabulous Father's Day gift for the guy who has it all, because we know that Dad and Grandpa want to always look good and feel their best. And this set from Truman's Gentleman's Groomers has exactly what any guy needs for a great look. This is $88.
Oh, I was wondering. I'm like, I bet this is pricey.
We got it for just $24.99.
Never mind.
So that's saving up to 72%.
That is a fabulous deal. And I gotta say, men's care is so, people, they care now. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And these are so snazzy.
And I like the aesthetic on that as well.
It's going to look great in your bathroom, you know? I love this.
How does it smell? Good? Take a sniff.
Really nice.
Wow.
Very refreshing.
Head on over to morningsave.com to snag all these amazing deals at the lowest prices. Or, as you know, you can scan the QR code right on screen. It will take you directly to these products right on MorningSave's website. Couldn't be easier. Thank you so much, Steph. We'll be right back.
Sunshine on a cloudy day sure sounds nice, but might not feel so great. Let's verify. Are UV rays stronger on cloudy days? We checked with several sources and found out the answer depends on some specific cloud conditions. A dark day will, of course, block out some sunshine, but our research all concludes many of those skin-damaging rays can still filter through.
Around 80% of the sun rays can penetrate through the clouds.
And some clouds could be worse than none at all. We looked at several studies showing a phenomenon, sometimes called the broken cloud effect, can actually cause the sun's light to reflect and bounce around more intensely. The University of Washington cites research showing UV rays enhanced by 25% on a partly cloudy day compared to a sunny day. If it's a cloudy day on the water, even more reason to lather up. According to the National Council on Skin Cancer Prevention, light bouncing off water and sand can effectively double UV exposure. But the reason for your cloudy day sunburn might be less meteorological and more mental. As in, experts say people often aren't thinking of applying or reapplying sunscreen when they aren't feeling bright, direct rays. Windy days can also cool the skin, and the Skin Cancer Foundation warns can make you more likely to blow off sunscreen.
You're still getting sun exposure and sun damage.
With your Verify, I'm Abby Larico.
Pool season is right around the corner, and as parents are getting their kids ready to splash in the pool, we wanted to know, are brighter colored swimsuits easier to spot if your kid goes underwater? Let's verify.
Our source is a watercolor study from Alive Solutions and Allie Gaines with Charlotte Aquatics. According to Alive Solutions, bright and contrasting colors are easier to see underwater. This is important because if your kid goes underwater for a long period of time, you'll want to easily spot them. The Alive Solutions color test shows some examples. In this series of photos, fabric colors such as bright reds, pinks, blues, and greens show up better when compared to fabrics such as light blue, light gray, black, and white. As you can see, the colors white and light blue basically disappear when underwater. Gaines says drownings are so prevalent in children under the age of 4. She confirms kids should be wearing brightly colored swimsuits.
Neon colors are much better. They're easier to spot in the water.
Gaines says while picking out the perfect swimsuit color is important for parents, it's only a secondary measure for preventing accidents in pools.
If you're not actually watching the water, if you're not actually watching your kids, it's really not going to do very good.
Gaines also suggests putting your kids in swim lessons at an early age to help get them used to being around the water.
So swim lessons are always going to be your number one way to keep your kids safe around the water, best way to prevent drowning. Formal swim lessons actually reduce the risk of drowning by 88%.
So we can verify that yes, brighter colored swimsuits are easier to spot if your kid goes underwater. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
Welcome back to DBL. We love your comments. This is in regard to Disney adults. Lee says, I love Disneyland and World. Could easily go alone. Here. Jamie says, you're never too old to be a Disney kind of guy. And Julia says, I went to Disneyland so often as a child that I have no desire to go back.
Wow, nice life.
I find it to be the happiest place on earth.
I love it so much.
I love it so much.
I miss it. One day when I'm older, I will volunteer on one of those rides.
Oh.
Yeah.
What do you mean volunteer?
And me and Al will be sitting in the parking lot.
In my senior golden years, I'll be a volunteer on It's a Small World.
What will you be volunteering for?
Like us.
Here's what we're talking about today on Daily Blast Live.
Disney's live action The Little Mermaid makes a big splash at the box office. Is the plot of the movie problematic, though, for today's times? Then, a couple who took in a Ukrainian orphan finds themselves in the middle of a nightmare. Was she actually a 22-year-old con artist at the time of her adoption?
There was a moment when I woke up in the middle of the night and Natalia was standing over my bed with a knife in her hand.
Plus, actress and singer Vanessa Williams tells us all about judging Queen of the Universe while weighing in on our country's drag debate.
We've got some issues right now, letting our drag be an art form.
And Jules' rendition of the national anthem gets mixed reviews. Is changing the melody disrespectful?
Oh my gosh.
Get real.
No. Y'all, just stop.
This is a sham.
It's finally here. Drum roll.
Welcome to DBL. We are all coming back from a long Memorial Day weekend. Before we talk about our day off and all the fun we had, we do want to just say, you know, we are so grateful to all the brave men and women who lost their lives dedicated to our freedom and our country. So thank you on behalf of all of us. Okay, so let's talk about, what did you do this weekend? Were you here? Were you home?
I was with the fam. I sent you guys a couple pictures. My favorite nephew, Josh, got married this weekend.
Josh.
It's crazy because I remember getting the phone call on a landline phone that he was born, and now he's married to the person that he loves. That's me and the kiddos, and that's at the top. That's a picture of my mom with her 3 kids. That's the first picture she's ever had with all 3 of her kids. So it was really a full circle moment for our family, for myself. I told you this is a changing month. I saw my mom get married 3 weeks ago, and my nephew get married this weekend. So I'm good. I'm playing with house money now. Maybe we got a couple, maybe college graduations and weddings to knock out with the kids, but other than that, I'm good.
That's perspective right
That's
there.
unbelievable.
Really
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Congratulations, Al.
Tori, what about you?
I did a little hike with my senior dogs, and I'm a little lazy, so it was a little walk to Netherland, one of our favorite mining towns.
I like that. I like it out there.
Oh,
yeah.
Josie Rose.
Yeah, and we enjoy it. If you have senior dogs and you live in Colorado, it's a great place to walk. That's a fishing pond for children, Jeff.
Oh.
And you can throw it back, but it's just for kids.
I've been up there before.
Oh, it's
beautiful.
really nice. So we enjoy. I did have a glass. It was lovely. We can move past that.
It's like an aquarium.
Okay, and then ice cream. We can also move past the ice cream.
Ooh, and fire, girl.
And then I went to the pool, and it was lovely. I also invited myself and crashed to Erica's house, so I was also at Erica's house for part of it.
I'm so jealous. You got in on the spool.
Yeah, it was great.
So jealous.
So good.
Okay, speaking of pools, we went to the pool too all weekend. Our pool just opened, I think, like yours, Jeff, on Friday.
Yes.
We were talking about it. So, Sophie had her first swim meet too.
Oh,
yes.
Taking after mom.
Did we have that video that you sent us on the group thread? Please tell me.
The tooth?
Yes.
Okay, so listen, before people say anything, my dad used to remove my teeth when they were wiggly with a string and a door. And it never hurt. So Sophie's tooth was wiggly, and I said, do you want it out so the tooth fairy can come visit? She said yes, and she was focused on getting that tooth fairy to come visit.
Of course.
So we tied, here's the video, tied the tooth, slammed the door,
Oh my
out
God.
it came.
Oh my God.
Yep, and it worked, man, it works. Boom, there it went.
Oh my God.
But of course, I made sure she wanted to do it.
Yeah, of course.
I like that you have to explain now.
It's true.
You know what I mean? It's so annoying.
It is.
It's so annoying.
I don't need people writing me saying that it's child abuse.
Yes. Oh,
That's what people say?
No, but I know she's right.
She's right.
Because I prefaced it when first of all, I shared that video only with friends because I don't need comments from people who might question my judgment as a parent, not knowing the full context in the situation.
I showed my wife
comment.
that was amazing.
That was awesome.
I thought it was awesome. Said that girl's got heart. She's a tough one.
She's a fighter.
Yeah.
She is a fighter. We also saw The Little Mermaid.
Oh.
So that was fun. All the mom friends, look at them. They all got dressed up. One of them, Cora, is in a tail.
Wow.
And then look at them.
Is that the movie theater or the Enterprise?
No, that's the aquarium, Al.
Did you see those seats?
It was very nice.
It was like really nice.
Yeah, that's what movie theaters look like.
Not all of them?
Yeah, they do now.
No, they don't.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
So speaking Little Mermaid, you guys. Speaking of the Little Mermaid, so one thing that many Americans did this weekend, maybe some of our viewers here, they went and saw, just like us, Disney's live-action remake of The Little Mermaid. The film won the box office, taking in $121 million in its opening weekend alone. But reviews of the film are mixed, with some critics slamming it for lacking creativity and fun. Meantime, some people are calling out the film for its message to young girls, including British singer Paloma Faith. She posted this to Instagram saying, quote, "I don't want my kids to think it's okay to give up your entire voice and your powers to love a man. Not what I want to be teaching the next generation of women at all." So what do we think of the plot of The Little Mermaid? Do you think it's problematic? What would you say, Erica?
I would say that we knew what this movie was. I mean, it wasn't like a new script. And although there were changes, clearly, in order to make it less problematic or more today's standards, it's also an animated live-action film. But you actually saw it. So what were your thoughts?
I feel like I saw a different movie than her. Because,
what were your thoughts?
Can I give away some things? Can I say spoiler alert?
I feel like it's been 20, 30 years.
We know.
No, there's changes, Erica. So Ariel is the one that, we all know that she saved Eric in the beginning. She also saves him in the end. She's the one that defeats Ursula. Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah, not Eric like in the original.
Oh.
And she also saves her dad, King Triton. So for me, not only did she, and before she even saw Eric up on that boat, if you remember, not only in the original, but it's more introduced here, she always had an infatuation with humans. Eric was like, you know, the straw that broke the camel's back, where she's like, I need to do this. She made up her decision. This is what she wanted to do. So I saw that as being brave, going against her father, who's the king, saying, this is what I want. And there's one line at the very end that got me, which is a new line where after she saved her dad, who was literally dying after Ursula, again, spoiler alert, hit him with the Triton. He looked at her, and she had already gotten her voice back, which she got back, by the way, because she's the one that defeated Ursula. She got her own voice back. But she looked at her father, and he turned her fin back into legs. And she had agency over her own body, and she looked at her dad, and she said, thank you for hearing me. He goes, you shouldn't have had to have lost your voice in order for me to hear you. Now, that's not a feminist, beautiful undertone.
Totally.
I don't know what is. I think Halle Bailey did an amazing job, and she knocked it out of the park. Anyways.
Can I ask you one question very quickly about it? That sounds fantastic, and I can't wait to go. I did play Scuttle in a performance.
You did? Scuttle's amazing.
Jingle Hopper.
I will pay $10,000 for that video.
Excellent. I will get it to you. I will get it to you.
Yes.
Quick question. You know how the animation is fun and colorful? Is the live actions too natural? I don't want you know what I mean? I don't want it too under the sea. I still want it to be like under the sea.
It's beautiful.
Okay.
The colors are beautiful.
Good.
And I'm a huge original Little Mermaid fan. This one surpasses it.
Oh, wow.
Surpasses the expectations. It's much more strong. Even before you kiss the girl, there's this line in there about it being like Ariel's choice. Like, in my opinion, it wasn't too woke. It empowered young girls to like have agency over their bodies, to be heroes. Sophie looked at me and said, Mom, she's a hero, when she saved her own father.
Oh, my word.
And there's another part in it, because you mentioned Scuttle. Sorry, this is just amazing.
I'm amazed by this.
So Scuttle's played by Awkwafina, and it was so cool because Lin-Manuel Miranda is the one that did the soundtrack, just like in Encanto. There's a song I predict is going to be all over, just like We Don't Talk About Bruno. This one is called Scuttlebutt. And I guess a scuttlebutt is a gossip back in the ship days. So there's a whole song called I'm a scuttlebutt, scuttlebutt. And one of my friends who likes to like stay with the Joneses in the neighborhood turned to me and goes, oh no, am I the scuttlebutt?
She's all, yeah.
Okay, clearly I like the movie. Sorry. Anybody want to add anything to this?
I think we're done.
After your
I liked it.
term paper of The Little Mermaid.
I liked it. I thought it was good.
Wait, there is another.
I think it's time for a commercial.
No, there's another controversy, Jeff. There always is.
I know about
Over the makeup artist who was responsible for Melissa McCarthy's transformation, who knocked it out of the park also to become Ursula. Now, the original Ursula's villainous look was based on a drag queen icon named Divine, but people took issue with the fact that the makeup artist who did the look is not queer, nor had he done drag makeup before. The makeup artist is responding, Peter Smith King, saying, quote, why can't I do as good as a job as a queer makeup artist. So what do we think of this? What do you think, Tori?
Okay, first of all, he can. Absolutely. That's fine with me. But I will have to say, the makeup in the animation is so much more interesting than what I thought Ursula's makeup was. Now, I want to talk to Dre, of course, our makeup artist, and we'll go to the break and talk to him about it. The green, the weird eyebrows just seem flat and boring. If you watch the Ursula animated, it's got sparkles. It's blue. It's like aqua. It's like underwater. And I wish they had played with some of that. Vanessa Williams for instance, has a great sparkle line at Sephora, and incorporated some of Divine into that because she's well known to have been based on Divine. And Divine's Divine.
Yeah, very divine. Yeah. But Melissa McCarthy did great, Tori. You'd be very proud of her.
Oh,
unbelievable. Michael Dean said that was his favorite character.
Really?
Okay, enough about the Little Mermaid. Coming up on DBL, our interview with actress and singer Vanessa Williams. She's telling us all about being a judge on the drag competition Queen of the Universe, and Jules' rendition of the national anthem gets mixed reviews. Is changing the melody disrespectful?
Our viewers are talking about DBL.
Yes!
I like that.
Leaves me speechless and like blushing.
Thank you, thank you.
That's emotional.
Do I want to sit there and watch them? Yes, I do. So we're trying to get Dre. Dre's also worked in drag and is a fantastic creative director and makeup artist. So I wanted to get his take on Ursula.
Oh, go for it.
Are you listening to water? What's going on?
My wife sent me a video of the kids.
I was like, is he under the sea? So is okay, good. Is kiss the girl? Because in the movie, it's very much like don't have consent, just kiss the girl. How did they? No, but it's very much like don't worry about it, just go for it.
Yeah. So the way they did it differently, is they rephrased leading up to it. You have to kiss Prince Eric. So you like almost like she would, you could tell that that's all she wanted. So she has, but they don't change the lyrics in the song. When the song comes, it's the original song, but it's already been built up. And then there's a point too where Sebastian points out that when they even bring up the kiss, she kind of goes into a spell of a fog. So they kind of, I think, have that layer on top too, where she's not even aware. But then they never kiss anyways because
they fall. They don't
right,
kiss?
Right, they fall. That's the whole point. Oh, kiss though. Oh. Remember, they go to.
What? They want you to talk about Ursula.
I wanted to give you the opportunity because I thought it was a little boring. Not that he had to be queer, but I thought the makeup was boring and it should have been more like Divine.
Oh no, it was flat and terrible.
That's what I said.
No, you could see the glue on the brows. They tried to glue back her brows.
And the green
that was
was
horrible
boring.
Back. There was no symmetry in her actual complexion. Her brows were like this. There wasn't a roundness to the brows, unfortunately, which is like the whole Divine character. What's being said a lot in the film world right now is that Melissa McCarthy actually had the directive to control the narrative of how that was being portrayed. But the bottom line is she looked like Auntie's 80s Ursula and not
great.
like 2023 Ursula.
I totally, and with all that makeup, I said Vanessa Williams.
Absolutely.
You could have done really cool.
Welcome back. The Indianapolis 500 was this weekend, and Jules sang the national anthem, but she had her own take on the Star-Spangled Banner that left a lot of folks upset. Let's watch together, and you can decide what you think. Take a look.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
So a lot of people online were quick to criticize. One person wrote, "For the love of God, just sing the national anthem as it's meant to be sung. Don't put your own spin on it, sacrilegious." And another person said, "Jewel butchered the national anthem. People were trying to sing along but couldn't because of the way she sang it." What do you think, Jeff?
I think I had fun this weekend. I was with my family and I drank and was at the pool. I never once went to a movie and said, you took away a little girl's freedom for the Little Mermaid. I never listened to the national anthem and got online and told everybody my opinions about it. It's insane where we're at. I thought that was beautiful, by the way.
Me too.
I don't think it's
it
sacrilegious. I don't think it's disrespectful to the national anthem. And I usually stick up for things like that. It's Jules' take as an artist to put her own spin on what she thinks the national anthem should sound like. And I like a little bit of twist. I don't like the same old thing. I thought that was beautiful.
Absolutely.
I didn't see what the problem was, and I know people were upset because they couldn't sing along, but nobody was asking them to sing. They asked Jewel to sing, and Jewel sang, and I thought it was beautiful. And it wasn't like a creation where it's so far removed from the original that you're like stuck on the performance. She was hitting all the notes.
She sounded
It was very
hauntingly beautiful.
melodic. I want to listen to the whole thing.
Yeah, imagine you're Francis Scott Key, who wrote it. It's the dawn's early light. It's cold. You have bombs bursting in air, and you see the wave of the American flag, and you write a poem. Oh, 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 say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail, right? She sung it like it was in the morning, like a poem, like it was just starting, and it's probably the way he wrote it.
I think we want you to do the national anthem. Just like
it's a beautiful,
say, can you sing?
It was never like, oh, say, can you sing? It was always a quiet poem that was so beautifully worded that it became the national anthem.
Honestly, if we're joking around, but you just gave your own take on the national anthem, and if somebody hired Tori to do the national anthem, that's how you would do it. You would talk us through it,
She'd be a beat
and you would explain
Or Sam to break down the Little Mermaid.
You paint a picture, there's passion behind what you're saying, and you know, my girl works for the Rockies, so I hear a lot of national anthems. I hear a lot of America the Beautiful.
Are there a bunch of different renditions?
Sometimes it's just a dude playing the sax.
Yeah.
Or an organ, like it was on Saturday.
Jimi Hendrix. Remember the famous electric guitar one?
He destroyed the country when he did that. It was one of the most popular renditions. So I think we need to understand that this is art, and let's not lose sight of the fact that this song is meant to mean something. We're not talking just about musical taste here at this point. So I think, again, like you said, Jeff, just some people need to, let's take a weekend, guys. It's been a rough couple of years. Let's just take a weekend. We'll start back on Tuesday.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well said. We're all in agreement. That's rare. I love it. Coming up on DBL, we're talking with the fabulous Vanessa Williams, all about judging the drag singing contest Queen of the Universe.
There is nothing I like better than finding a great deal on travel. And it turns out I'm not alone. Verify viewer Catherine emailed us to ask, is there a certain day of the week that's cheapest to buy a plane ticket? So Catherine, let's verify. Our sources are Scott's Cheap Flights, a study by cheapair.com, and Brett Snyder, president of Cranky Concierge Travel Assistance and a former airline pricing analyst. Some studies suggest Tuesday or Saturdays are the cheapest days to buy tickets, but all of our sources say they usually rely on flawed or outdated data. For example, some articles suggest that weekends are the cheapest days to buy. Snyder points out that's based on data that tracks the average amount spent on a ticket each day of the week. Families tend to buy their tickets on weekends and usually purchase less expensive tickets. Meanwhile, business travelers tend to buy their tickets during the week, and many are less price sensitive.
A lot of the business travel, premium cabin or even last minute or whatever it might be, those tend to be higher fares.
The end result is a study that has skewed data. Similar articles suggest Tuesdays offer the best deals, but our sources say that's also not the case. Scott's Cheap Flights explains on its site that this idea is a holdover from the 1990s when airlines used to upload special e-fares on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. These days, Snyder says airlines use sophisticated algorithms to consistently adjust fares based on demand, regardless of what day of the week it is.
This hasn't existed for years. I couldn't tell you the last time when those actually were out there in the market.
So we can verify, no, there is not a certain day of the week that's cheapest to buy a plane ticket. So when should you book? Cheapair.com found domestic tickets are generally cheapest 3 to 15 weeks before departure. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Let the drag extravaganza begin!
UKRANIAN, the Queen of the Universe. The world's first ever vocal drag competition is bigger than ever. It's an all-new season of Queen of the Universe.
Time to spice up the competition.
Are you ready for your life to change?
Welcome back to DBL. That was a clip from season 2 of Queen of the Universe. And earlier we spoke with one of its judges, the multi-talented Vanessa Williams. Take a look. Oh my goodness, she is a Tony, Grammy, and Emmy nominated actress and singer. Please welcome to DBL, Vanessa Williams.
Yes. Wow.
Yes.
Vanessa, let's jump right in. You look beautiful. I have to point that out. I'm a little nervous. Let's talk about Queen of the Universe. Not you, the show. The costumes, makeup, and dancing are over the top. So what is the craziest thing to happen backstage so far?
So Queen of the Universe, this is season 2 on Paramount Plus, and it is a drag queen singing competition that is live. So there is no lip syncing. This is all live singing. The drag is out of this world. There are some costumes and some bodies and some faces that are incredible. And there's also some heartwarming moments. There's a couple of moments where you'll see family members get a chance to interact with the queens that are in competition. And it shows the humanity and the acceptance and the support that is behind the scenes for this spectacular moment. It's great to be a judge. I get a chance to sit back and watch all the festivities.
Yes, we live for fabulous queens, yourself included. Now, but this is a global show. But are other countries more accepting of drag than America? And where does our country rank in the world of acceptance when it comes to drag?
Good question.
Good question. There are some that are more severe, that especially you've heard on our when we did season 1, there was a queen from India, and she said, it is a danger in my country to do what I love to do. So that was a heartbreaking story. And then there's also ones that are celebrated. We've got one queen from Australia, and it is an art form that has been celebrated for years, and it is wonderful. So in terms of where we are as a country, yeah, we've got some issues right now. Letting our drag be an art form. It is an art form. It is not predatory. These are queens that have made a life and career out of transformation and bringing joy.
I love that you said that, because I was going to follow up and ask why America needs this type of show right now. And I think you absolutely said it all, because it's also about the safety of our performers and how much we, some of us, everyone on this panel, wants to protect that. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And it's showbiz. They're singing their hearts out. They're wearing amazing clothing, doing incredible choreography with dancers around them, and it's for production value. We're putting on a show so the whole family can enjoy it.
All right, well, let's stay on the track of showbiz. Now, we read that there's a limited series about your Miss America scandal that's possibly in the works. First of all, is that true? And what is the biggest misconception about your story?
Well, the idea is true. We are getting the team together. So there's, you know, I don't have a release date, but it is in motion. Probably the biggest misconception, I think, is that, you know, I was a musical theater major before I became famous. And what beauty queen labels tend to do is negate any kind of talent you have or intellect. So it took me longer to actually show who I was when people would accept me than normally if I had just graduated from university, went to graduate school, went to Broadway. There would have been none of the skepticism that I had to barrel through, which took a long, long time.
That is powerful.
I think you showed them.
I think so too. Yes.
Well done.
DBL Nation, season 2 of Queen of the Universe premieres June 2nd on Paramount Plus. Vanessa, thank you so much for chatting with us today. Congratulations on everything. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Sunshine on a cloudy day sure sounds nice, but might not feel so great. Let's verify. Are UV rays stronger on cloudy days? We checked with several sources and found out the answer depends on some specific cloud conditions. A dark day will, of course, block out some sunshine, but our research all concludes many of those skin-damaging rays can still filter through.
Around 80% of the sun rays can penetrate through the clouds.
And some clouds could be worse than none at all. We looked at several studies showing a phenomenon, sometimes called the broken cloud effect, can actually cause the sun's light to reflect and bounce around more intensely. The University of Washington cites research showing UV rays enhanced by 25% on a partly cloudy day compared to a sunny day. If it's a cloudy day on the water, even more reason to lather up. According to the National Council on Skin Cancer Prevention, light bouncing off water and sand can effectively double UV exposure. But the reason for your cloudy day sunburn might be less meteorological and more mental. As in, experts say people often aren't thinking of applying or reapplying sunscreen when they aren't feeling bright, direct rays. Windy days can also cool the skin, and the Skin Cancer Foundation warns can make you more likely to blow off sunscreen.
You're still getting sun exposure and sun damage.
With your Verify, I'm Abby Larico.
Pool season is right around the corner, and as parents are getting their kids ready to splash in the pool, we wanted to know, are brighter colored swimsuits easier to spot if your kid goes underwater? Let's verify. Our source is a watercolor study from Alive Solutions and Allie Gaines with Charlotte Aquatics. According to Alive Solutions, bright and contrasting colors are easier to see underwater. This is important because if your kid goes underwater for a long period of time, you'll want to easily spot them. The Alive Solutions color test shows some examples. In this series of photos, fabric colors such as bright reds, pinks, blues, and greens show up better when compared to fabrics such as light blue, light gray, black, and white. As you can see, the colors white and light blue basically disappear when underwater. Gaines says drownings are so prevalent in children under the age of 4. She confirms kids should be wearing brightly colored swimsuits.
Neon colors are much better. They're easier to spot in the water.
Gaines says while picking out the perfect swimsuit color is important for parents, it's only a secondary measure for preventing accidents in pools.
If you're not actually watching the water, if you're not actually watching your kids, it's really not going to do very good.
Gaines also suggests putting your kids in swim lessons at an early age to help get them used to being around the water.
So swim lessons are always going to be your number one way to keep your kids safe around the water, best way to prevent drowning. Formal swim lessons actually reduce the risk of drowning by 88%.
So we can verify that yes, brighter colored swimsuits are easier to spot if your kid goes underwater. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
We love sharing your comments. In regard to Jewel and the national anthem, Keith says Jewel put passion into the feeling of the song. She's a talented musician who I respect and has every right to include her take. And Myra says it still had the basic melody. What's the problem? It was nice. Exactly.
Shout out Jewel.
If you're leaving us, you can watch the second half of the show online. Watch on YouTube, dailyblastlive.com, or our mobile app. But if you get the second half of the show where you are, here's what's ahead. A couple who took in an orphan from Ukraine find themselves in the middle of a nightmare. Was she actually a 22-year-old con artist at the time of her adoption? And Succession fans are talking about the series finale, which has us thinking, what are the best finales of all time?
Walk into your favorite store and you'll see a wall of choices to protect your skin from the sun. A Verify viewer texted us asking about the difference between spray-on and lotion sunscreens. So let's verify. Are spray-on sunscreens as effective as lotions? Our sources are Harvard Health and 2 board-certified dermatologists to explain it's all about how you apply sunscreen.
I think it's easier with a lotion to make sure that you're getting full coverage. With a spray, you may not be as careful. So that is a consideration with the spray.
Dr. Rajani Kanta also says despite the advertising, you can't simply spray and go.
I recommend that you spray and then you make sure that you rub it in so that you're not missing any of those, you're not missing any spots.
Harvard Health found when spraying, most people apply just a quarter of what they need. Researchers recommend spraying each area for up to 6 seconds.
You know that you have enough when your skin glistens. If it's not glistening, you gotta put more.
But Dr. Danilo Del Campo says that doesn't mean sprays, when used properly, are any less effective than lotions.
Between a lotion that has SPF 30 and a spray that's SPF 30, they are equivalent. However, The difference is how do we apply it and the method that we apply it.
So we can verify, yes, spraying on sunscreens are as effective as lotions. However, they may be more difficult to use correctly than lotions. The doctors also say parents may want to use lotions for their children because it's harder to spray a good coating when kids are squirming around. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
Oh my gosh.
Get real.
No. Y'all, just stop.
This is a sham.
It's finally here. Drum roll. Welcome to DBL. Okay, so let's get right into something that you will not believe. Of all the strange adoption stories out there, very few are as unbelievable as the case of Natalia Grace. Watch.
You may remember the unusual story of Natalia Grace, a Ukrainian orphan with severe dwarfism adopted by the Barnett family in Indiana, then allegedly abandoned years later.
Then out of nowhere, we got a phone call from an adoption agency in Florida. They had reached out to us and they said, hey, we've got the perfect child for you. Here's all we're gonna give you. Here's 2 pictures. Here's a Ukrainian language birth certificate. And here's 1 doctor visit from 2 years before. You have 24 hours to tell us whether or not you want to adopt her. We went and signed paperwork, and the next thing you know, Natalia was ours.
They began to suspect things were not what they seemed with Natalia.
Now we're very concerned and very worried. Is Natalia 6? Is she older? We would find knives under her bed. There was a moment when I woke up in the middle of the night and Natalia was standing over my bed with a knife in her hand. She began to attempt to harm my sons in a very serious manner.
I'm going to kill you, you you're gonna die.
She was re-aged as a 22-year-old and given an apartment. She was then taken in by another family nearby a year later.
Prosecutors allege that in July of 2013, the Barnetts left their daughter in the Lafayette apartment, then moved to Canada.
For years, her story was scrutinized.
A 6 or 7-year-old child living in an apartment alone for a year? That's just not believable to me. Are you a 33-year-old scam artist?
No.
But what if that is not the full story?
A woman who claims to be Natalia Barnett's biological birth mother has come forward to say that she is a child.
What if this adult, pretending to be a child, was actually a child the entire time? Will we ever learn the truth of what happened? Only time will tell.
Wow, joining us now to talk all about the curious case of Natalia Grace, please welcome to the show veteran legal expert Beth Karras.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So let's just go to the start. How did Natalia come into the Barnett family's lives?
She had been adopted by a family in New Hampshire about 2 years earlier in 2008 when she was supposedly 4 years old and unloaded. They didn't want her after about a year, it appears. They were trying to pass her off, almost sell her to another little family, little people family a couple of times. And when that was unsuccessful, they dropped her off at an adoption agency in Florida. Now, they were from New Hampshire. And that's when the Barnetts got the call that they had 24 hours to come and get this little girl, or else she was going to be turned over to foster care. And that was in 2010, so they thought they were adopting a 6-year-old.
So when did the Barnett family begin to suspect that maybe she was much older?
Almost immediately. There were signs almost immediately when Christine, the mother, gave her a bath. They were still in Florida, hadn't gotten back to Indiana yet. And she noticed that Natalia was very mature sexually. She had pubic hair. And they thought, well, she's 6 years old, so what's going on here? Were they off by a few years or more than a few years in her age?
Now, the answer to Natalia's age is still, I can't believe this, still a mystery. In actuality, how old was Natalia while this was going on?
Well, we don't know for sure.
Right.
If you believe her Ukrainian birth certificate, she was actually 8 years old when she was re-aged to 22 and left on her own in an apartment that was not modified for someone with a disability.
Oh
She's
my
a little
gosh.
person. This was a hall, counters and bathtub and sinks, and wasn't modified for her. But yet she was 8 years old. But 8-year-olds can live on their own.
Wow. All right, follow up to that. Do you feel like the stories of her plotting to kill the family, which we all know as the narrative, some people are saying that was made up. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there may be some truth to it, but you have to consider that it's really just coming from the Barnetts, right? There's no corroboration of that. And perhaps they're making it worse than it was. But you have to consider also that Natalia may have been acting out. If she was a child, we don't know what those first years of her life were like. Was she sexually abused? She didn't know boundaries. Was she, I don't know, just kind of engaging in some sort of self-protection, some mechanism that was triggered because of her past.
Right, that's where my mind went. But I have to ask you this, because I know you've uncovered everything in this story. If the Barnetts were making this up, what do you believe? Do you believe that there was some sort of motive to distance themselves from her? What do you think that is?
Well, once their son Jacob got a full scholarship to Canada, I mean, they really did have a hard time with Natalia, whether it was their fault or hers or a combination. That is the truth. And they wanted to unload her. She was theirs legally, but I think they wanted to get to Canada and get Jacob educated, bring their sons with them. And they had her re-aged, and it was a way to just kind of get rid of her. So that could be one motive, because they claim they tried to use other resources. They tried to get psychological help for her and police. And I mean, no one, they said, no, she's your problem, basically. So like, okay, we're going to get rid of our problem. We're going to do it legally.
I have to ask, does anybody know where she is now?
Yes, she's in Indiana. She was taken in by another family, and she is older, well-adjusted. She's either 19, turning 20 later this year, or 34, depending on what you believe. Wow. And she's doing quite well.
Wow, Beth, this case is absolutely crazy. Thank you for sharing your expert analysis. DBL Nation, the curious case of Natalia Grace continues tonight on ID. Thank you so much, Beth.
Thanks.
We appreciate you.
Thanks,
we'll be right back. Thank you.
Our viewers are talking about DBL. Yes!
I like that.
Leaves me speechless. I'm like blushing. Thank you, thank you.
That's emotional.
Do I want to sit there and watch them? Yes, I do.
Okay. Hey guys, there's a movie Orphan that came out like recently, am I right? That has like a very similar plot. That movie was based on this story, but the players in this story actually didn't even know about Orphan when we did, our producers did an interview. He had to tell them about that movie. So, oh, okay. It was based on a similar story, so we don't know. Yeah, similar story, so it's not connected in any way to that. Yeah, I guess it's not connected. I mean, I was saying it's not connected.
But it is a crazy, crazy story.
Yeah.
I remember that Dr. Phil clip because we were on, I don't know how many years ago, but we were doing this show at the time.
We had to react to that.
Yeah, we did it on the show, and I remember that. And now the follow-up, and it's still nobody knows the truth. Can you tell by someone's, like a dentist, to get their age or blood test? There's got to be something you could, because they do it with like, dead bodies that they exhume, and they're like, oh, this person was between the age of this, just on their, or maybe they do a lot of like bone structure, so maybe being a little person, the bone structure is not the same.
Okay, because I was like, they absolutely do bone length. Not only that is interesting, the teeth seem like the best bet.
Right.
You absolutely can see if a child's teeth hasn't come in yet, but I wonder if they can't get permission to look at her dental records. Perhaps there's some privacy. Bring her in there?
Well,
that's her right. I mean, she has to have a probable cause to be.
Oh, maybe she doesn't want
right.
them
You know what I'm
known?
saying? And if that case is,
why, if you were trying to prove that you're right, why wouldn't you prove?
Well, she pulled out the birth certificate, and the original mom came out to say, but I feel like that can also be faked.
Tori,
thank you.
Does anybody remember on Oprah when there was that controversy about that mom that sent her Russian orphan back to Russia? Do you guys remember that? You remember Russia?
Yeah, was she?
Yeah, she like sent her.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, she said the kid was violent.
Yeah.
And was she was lied to. They were on Oprah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome back to DBL. The hit show Succession came to an end on Sunday, and we finally learned the fate of the Roy children. Spoiler alert for anyone who has not seen the finale. Cover your ears. In a twist, Tom Logan Roy's son-in-law swooped in and became the American CEO of the family business, which ended up being sold. Many fans were pleased with the finale, even though none of Logan's 3 children came out on top. But that got us thinking about some other season finales that left fans divided. Some fans hated when Dexter wrapped things up by having the lead character retreat to a lumberyard in Oregon. The ending of The Sopranos is still debated after the audience finds Tony and his family sharing onion rings at a diner, and then the scene just cuts to black. But Game of Thrones might take the cake for the most polarizing series finale of all. What do we think is the worst and the best? Tori, do you have like one show that you felt like failed you?
Lost. I was in forums, I told them I was in clubs. We would discuss and we would evaluate, and we took it seriously, and they promised us. Damon Lindelof said, it's not that they're dead. They're not in purgatory, and what happened? They were dead. They were in purgatory. And it really was like, I invested all this stupid time, but the other one that I love, first of all, I have to give a shout out to MASH, because MASH had a wonderful ending that was a lot of people have already brought up. But Breaking Bad, I thought, had a really good ending, and it ended at the right time.
Yeah, I think Lost was a tough one too because there were so many episodes of it.
I was like 7 seasons, 10, whatever.
It was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot of Lost.
Any shows you were disappointed with?
It wasn't like the end of the world. I wonder if anybody else feels like this. The Wire. In a lot of ways, it really helped explain like what like City Hall does and like how the mayor is wrapped in with the police chief and the city. I didn't understand any of that, and it really illuminated like a lot of like what city issues are. But at the end, the last season, it was like based around the newspaper and a weird story, and especially coming off the heels of season 4, I think 2 and 4 were the best seasons. It was just it didn't hold up. It wasn't like it ruined the season for me, but it was just like you could have done it. I think wrap it up before. Less seasons is better.
Erica, did you get disappointed by any specific series? Or Jeff? I know.
Well, I mean, we all wanted to know who shot JR, but I mean, other than that.
Yeah, bring it back.
Bring it way back.
That was a good one.
Oh, it's true. Of course. Big Mama and I were very, that was a big thing.
Okay.
It was
Big
huge.
Mama, that was your bonding time.
That was back when there was one TV in the house and you just watched what everybody watched, so I get it, yes.
You were watching like Young and the Restless with your grandma, right?
Me and my grandma, we watched Young and the Restless during the day. At night on Fridays, we'd watch Falcon Crest, Empty Nest, Amen,
I loved Empty Nest.
227.
Amen and 227.
It was like, no one had this like, 89 channels. It was like, there's one TV and I guess Gem and the Holograms.
You're welcome.
I'd be watching that because my sister's watching it, so I still know the theme song.
We still don't give enough credit to the Golden Girls for making it okay to sit down after 8 o'clock and eat cheesecake.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That changed my whole life. Having that cheesecake, watching television.
Yeah, I was disappointed in Game of Thrones that final season because I was such a big fan. Yeah. So the way that ended, hopefully they fill those shoes. Snow is coming out soon, so it's follows Jon Snow. Huh?
Did you say Snow's coming out soon?
Did I?
I thought so.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
I didn't hear that. I think
I'm surprised you didn't get mad at me about 1899.
Oh, that show sucked. I don't even know if I can say that, but it's horrible. And
you loved it the first 5 episodes.
After that, they had a child last 5 episodes.
You're right. Okay. I'm with Jeff there. I'm with Jeff.
Right.
Okay, more stars came out to support Taylor Swift's Eras Tour over the weekend. Molly Ringwald caught the show at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey on Sunday with Hamilton star Lin-Manuel Miranda. Paul Rudd was also there and waved to a very excited fan. And check out Aaron Rodgers getting into the groove with actors Miles Teller and Bradley Cooper. Aaron was also spotted at another show, dancing along to Shake It Off by himself. Who knew? Such big Taylor Swift fans. What's the
No, I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers, and it's like starting to answer a question I've had since I turned 40. Can you go to a concert or a club by yourself and just dance? Because I don't want to go to a club and like hit on people, but I want to go like I used to go to hip hop concerts pre-COVID by myself. But then are you the weird guy that's like, oh, look at Al Jackson in the corner dancing by himself?
No.
I don't know. Is that weird? Because I mean, it's not a great look. It's not great, but is it okay?
It seems okay to me.
I'm not getting arousing.
No, I think you're all right.
Like we support
I think it's okay.
Would you ever do that, Erica?
Sure.
You go to a concert by yourself?
Yeah, I guess I could.
That's a no.
I mean, I've gone to concerts where I was like working, so I wasn't there.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's being played.
I get it.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift wasn't the only singer bringing out the stars. Beyonce rolled out the red carpet for some of her famous friends while making a stop in Paris for her Renaissance tour. Megan Thee Stallion was seen dancing at her show with Jay-Z. Selena Gomez waved to fans as she arrived in this sleek black trench coat. And check out Jay-Z, Chris Rock, and Natalie Portman. Oh, yeah. But the real star of the show, you guys, was Beyonce's 11-year-old daughter, Blue Ivy, who joined her on stage for 2 songs, My Power and Black Parade. What did everybody get to see Blue Ivy perform? You're shaking your head.
Yeah, and what I loved about her, I don't know, if I was trying to be on, I'd be like, ugh! I'd give it my all, and she was like, whatever. It was so cool. She's just the coolest human on earth. Because she came from the 2 coolest people. What are you gonna do? There's no uncoolness in her.
Do you think that she has pressure being Jay-Z and Beyonce's daughter, or do you think she's accepted?
No. I don't know. Blue Ivy seems like she's been here before. Yes. So she seems very unfazed.
Old soul.
And I'm just sitting there like, when I was 10, my mom used to take me to work and I would have to sit in a college classroom for the entire day.
It's a little different.
Very different. Very different.
Yeah. She was good though, wasn't she?
Yeah, that was like that was a different time on the planet when you go to work with your parents and just like there would be like a room that no one used with boxes and
highlighters.
Here's some crayons. Yeah, here's some crayons. Room and it smelled like 80s office supplies.
Totally.
Like, I don't want to be here.
Why am I by the copier?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So John Stamos recently confessed to being a fan of Disneyland while on Keke Palmer's podcast. He said he was feeling a little embarrassed over loving the theme park so much as an adult. Watch.
6-7 years ago, I was like, man, I got to shed this Disney thing because I don't know if it's hurting my acting career, but who's going to take me serious with the Mickey Mouse stuff? I got to sort of distance myself from it. And then I had dinner with Ryan Gosling one night with a bunch of people. And he's like, you're a Disney fan? And I go, yeah. He goes, I'm obsessed. I'm a Disney adult. I go there by myself. I wear headphones. I listen. I go on rides. I have a mixtape. I go, yeah, me too. I'm a Disney guy too. Ryan Gosling could be.
Why did you make some grunts over there?
I don't know. I think I feel the hostility, Sam, because I know how defensive you are about Disney. But you know, I was thinking, how can I relate to the story? And it's like, I like to go to Target in the mall by myself. I like to go to the mall and just walk around and just look at stuff. I like the way the different shops smell. I sound like a creep right now.
You sound so weird.
I do, but I like the
different
food
shops and
smell. He goes, I like how the shops smell.
Like the candle store, and then you get to the food court. It's like it's a whole visual and auditory and smelling experience.
Would you rather go to Taylor Swift by yourself or Disneyland by yourself?
Ooh. Oh my goodness. Oh,
wow, a stunner? A stunner?
Could I sit in the parking lot of either one?
Oh my God, Al!
What do you mean?
You can't just sit in the car all the time.
Sit in the car. I would sit in the car all day right now.
I know you would.
Instead of going to Disneyland, you would sit your butt in the car.
Yes, with the AC.
Are you kidding me right now?
I wouldn't go in by myself. As soon as you walk in, you're on a list.
Okay.
Like, oh, there's a weird guy walking around in here.
If you're sitting outside, watching and waiting as people are coming and going, then you're on a list. Okay.
We'll be right back. You're in trouble. You're in big trouble.
There is nothing I like better than finding a great deal on travel. And it turns out I'm not alone. Verify viewer Catherine emailed us to ask, is there a certain day of the week that's cheapest to buy a plane ticket? So Catherine, let's verify. Our sources are Scott's Cheap Flights, a study by cheapair.com, and Brett Snyder, president of Cranky Concierge Travel Assistance and a former airline pricing analyst. Some studies suggest Tuesday or Saturdays are the cheapest days to buy tickets, but all of our sources say they usually rely on flawed or outdated data. For example, some articles suggest that weekends are the cheapest days to buy. Snyder points out that's based on data that tracks the average amount spent on a ticket each day of the week. Families tend to buy their tickets on weekends and usually purchase less expensive tickets. Meanwhile, business travelers tend to buy their tickets during the week, and many are less price sensitive.
A lot of the business travel, premium cabin or even last minute or whatever it might be, those tend to be higher fares.
The end result is a study that has skewed data. Similar articles suggest Tuesdays offer the best deals, but our sources say that's also not the case. Scott's Cheap Flights explains on its site that this idea is a holdover from the 1990s when airlines used to upload special e-fares on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. These days, Snyder says airlines use sophisticated algorithms to consistently adjust fares based on demand, regardless of what day of the week it is.
This hasn't existed for years. I couldn't tell you the last time when those actually were out there in the market.
So we can verify, no, there is not a certain day of the week that's cheapest to buy a plane ticket. So when should you book? Cheapair.com found domestic tickets are generally cheapest 3 to 15 weeks before departure. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Welcome back. We've got some great products from our friends at MorningSave. Check them out.
Steph, what do you have for us today?
Hi Tori, hey DBL Nation. I am so excited to show off the deals today. As ever, they're fabulous. Get ready to shop because you're going to fall in love with this. First up today, we've got the Adagio Air Straightening Brush. So this deal includes one straightening brush that will simplify your hair routine. This hair tool will dry and style your hair at the same time. It has 3 temperature settings and 2 speed settings to work for all hair types. So normally this is $300. Ooh! You're not going to believe this price. We've got it for just $33.99. So that's saving 89%.
What?
I know.
These are all the rage everywhere on the TikTok and the Insta and the socials, and they save you time. I already have one, but I'll be buying this one as well.
Oh, it saves so much time. Drying and styling your hair in one go. It's honestly the way to go. I love this. Next up today, we've got the Conair Sonic Vibration Facial Cleansing Device. Nice. So this doorbuster deal includes 1 brush base and charging stand and 2 facial brushes. So Conair is a worldwide industry leader, and MorningSave is excited to offer this innovative product from a powerhouse brand at nearly 90% off. MorningSave's doorbuster deals have been wildly popular, but they want to make sure that everyone can get their hands on them. So, you guys, there's a limit of 3 per customer. Oh
my gosh.
Normally this is $80, but we've got it for just $10. So that's saving you guys 88%.
I'll be buying 3 and saving myself all the money and giving gifts and being the best friend you've ever seen.
There you go. This is honestly a great gift, and if you've got bridesmaids, your mum, your sister, whoever, it's great for anyone who loves skincare.
Especially in summer with the sweat, with a good deep cleaning, I'm in.
Exactly.
Wow.
Now, if you're a whiz in the kitchen, which I'm definitely not, but it's going to make me look like I am, we've got the Ginsu Kiso 6-piece steak knife set.
Look at that.
So this deal includes 6 steak knives available in black or purple.
Whoa.
So these are dishwasher safe. They're great for cutting fruits, vegetables, and of course, steak. And Ginsu is a leading brand name in the cutlery industry, and it's well known for their high quality, long lasting pieces.
Yeah, they're very well known.
So normally this is $25, Tori.
Oh, okay.
So we have got this 6-piece set for just $12.99. So that is saving 48%.
Everything is so well priced today. This is incredible. And if you have a dark dining room, Steph, don't you think the purple would be cool?
Tori, I love this purple, a great alternative to regular black colors. And also, black always looks so chic.
I agree with you. Nice pop. Very good price.
Now, our last product today is the Truman's Gentleman's Groomers 4-piece hair care kit. This deal includes 2 men's hair styling control pastes and 2 moisturizing shampoos. Now, this is a fabulous Father's Day gift for the guy who has it all, because we know that Dad and Grandpa want to always look good and feel their best. And this set from Truman's Gentleman's Groomers has exactly what any guy needs for a great look. This is $88.
Oh, I was wondering. I'm like, I bet this is pricey.
We've got it for just $24.99.
Never mind.
So that's saving up to 72%.
That is a fabulous deal. And I gotta say, men's care is so, people, they care now. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And these are so snazzy.
And I like the aesthetic on that as well. That's
it's going to look great in your bathroom, you know? I love this.
How does it smell? Good? Take a sniff.
Really nice.
Wow.
Very refreshing.
Head on over to morningsave.com to snag all these amazing deals at the lowest prices. Or, as you know, you can scan the QR code right on screen. It will take you directly to these products right on MorningSave's website. Couldn't be easier. Thank you so much, Steph. We'll be right back.
Sunshine on a cloudy day sure sounds nice, but might not feel so great. Let's verify. Are UV rays stronger on cloudy days? We checked with several sources and found out the answer depends on some specific cloud conditions. A dark day will, of course, block out some sunshine, but our research all concludes many of those skin-damaging rays can still filter through.
Around 80% of the sun rays can penetrate through the clouds.
And some clouds could be worse than none at all. We looked at several studies showing a phenomenon, sometimes called the broken cloud effect, can actually cause the sun's light to reflect and bounce around more intensely. The University of Washington cites research showing UV rays enhanced by 25% on a partly cloudy day compared to a sunny day. If it's a cloudy day on the water, even more reason to lather up. According to the National Council on Skin Cancer Prevention, light bouncing off water and sand can effectively double UV exposure. But the reason for your cloudy day sunburn might be less meteorological and more mental. As in, experts say people often aren't thinking of applying or reapplying sunscreen when they aren't feeling bright, direct rays. Windy days can also cool the skin, and the Skin Cancer Foundation warns can make you more likely to blow off sunscreen.
You're still getting sun exposure and sun damage.
With your Verify, I'm Abby Larico.
Pool season is right around the corner, and as parents are getting their kids ready to splash in the pool, we wanted to know, are brighter colored swimsuits easier to spot if your kid goes underwater? Let's verify.
Our source is a watercolor study from Alive Solutions and Allie Gaines with Charlotte Aquatics. According to Alive Solutions, bright and contrasting colors are easier to see underwater. This is important because if your kid goes underwater for a long period of time, you'll want to easily spot them. The Alive Solutions color test shows some examples. In this series of photos, fabric colors such as bright reds, pinks, blues, and greens show up better when compared to fabrics such as light blue, light gray, black, and white. As you can see, the colors white and light blue basically disappear when underwater. Gaines says drownings are so prevalent in children under the age of 4. She confirms kids should be wearing brightly colored swimsuits.
Neon colors are much better. They're easier to spot in the water.
Gaines says while picking out the perfect swimsuit color is important for parents, it's only a secondary measure for preventing accidents in pools.
If you're not actually watching the water, if you're not actually watching your kids, it's really not going to do very good.
Gaines also suggests putting your kids in swim lessons at an early age to help get them used to being around the water.
So swim lessons are always going to be your number one way to keep your kids safe around the water, a best way to prevent drowning. Formal swim lessons actually reduce the risk of drowning by 88%.
So we can verify that yes, brighter colored swimsuits are easier to spot if your kid goes underwater. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
Welcome back to DBL. We love your comments. This is in regard to Disney adults. Lee says, I love Disneyland and World. Could easily go alone. Here. Jamie says, you're never too old to be a Disney kind of guy. And Julia says, I went to Disneyland so often as a child that I have no desire to go back.
Wow, nice life.
I find it to be the happiest place on earth.
I love it so much.
I love it so much.
I miss it. One day when I'm older, I will volunteer on one of those rides.
Oh.
What do you mean volunteer?
And me and Al will be sitting in the parking lot.
In my senior golden years, I'll be a volunteer on It's a Small
What will
World
you
or
be
something.
volunteering for?
Hi, guys.